7:04 p.m. To connect with the council meeting online, please use the following links at lakewoodspeaks.org or lakewood.org/council videos. For online public comments can be made on lakewoodspeaks.org. That is our online forum for public comments. It's also the place where a lot of the supporting documents that staff has supplied for our conversations tonight is housed. So if you're here to hear any of those issues, you can go to lakewoodspeaks.org and get more information about those as well. We will be leaving public comments open through tonight and until tomorrow morning. Anyone who would like to address the city will be given the opportunity for several different opportunities throughout the evening. We've got general public comment that is designed to take public comment on items that are not on this evening's agenda. And then on the agenda items that have public hearings, we will have that interspersed throughout the agenda this evening as well. Will the clerk please start us off with the roll?
Mayor Strom.
Here.
Councilors LeBure.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Cruz K.
Here.
Mayak Guerrero.
Here.
Charzai.
Here.
Sinks.
Here.
Cruz I.
Presente.
Lowe.
Here.
Furman.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Now, at this time, if you are able to stand, I would ask you to please do so to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, and afterwards remain standing for a moment of silent prayer or reflection.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members of the City Council have the responsibility to comply with terms of Charter 7.2B and excuse themselves from voting on any matter in which they determine they have a personal, financial, or business interest. The City Council is empowered by Charter 7.2B to agree by unanimous vote, excluding the member at issue, to excuse any member of the council from voting on a matter in which they determine such member has a personal, financial, or business interest. All right. This is the first point in tonight's meeting where the public is invited to address the City Council, and this opportunity is on items that are not on tonight's agenda. This initial period of public comment allows for up to 10 speakers to provide comment on any matter other than an agenda item, and will prioritize those with special needs. Speaking during this initial period of public comment does require signing up to speak with the city clerk in advance of the meeting. There is no pool of time during the initial public comment period. The goal of public comment is to create an environment that welcomes all stakeholders to share their thoughts and concerns. Whether your comments are left on Lakewood Speaks or up here in Chambers, I ask that all comments be directed to the City Council, that anyone in attendance or online respect the decorum of council chambers and practice civility. And so that every speaker may be heard, I ask that everyone here in Chambers refrain from applause or any audible support or discourse with the speaker. With that, I'll also ask, and notice we've got a number of signs in the room tonight. Those are okay. Just please keep them low so that no one behind you is unable to see. For anyone in the audience who may be uncomfortable coming up this evening, it can be pretty stressful to come up front. You are also welcome to leave a comment on lakewoodspeaks.org if you choose to do that instead. Again, that will be left open through the evening and until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Please note that no campaigning is allowed during public comment. If you are speaking and have any handouts that you'd like to share with the City Council, I'd ask you to leave them with the city clerk up here at the front. They will be distributed to council following the meeting. The purpose of our time tonight here for public comment is for us to hear from you. This is a listen-only session. If you would like to engage in a conversation with your counselor, staff, or myself, you may do so via phone, scheduled office visits, or email. For those planning to speak tonight, when you arrive up here at the microphone, this is where you'll stand to speak. Or if you're unable to stand, we've got another microphone that's a little bit lower over here. As you approach the podium, it asks you to state your name and your address, or your name and your ward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then once the clock stops, once we hit 3 minutes, we'll be up for the next speaker. So if you look around the room tonight, you'll see that we have a lot of community members that are here to speak about something that is important to them. We also have a full agenda. Within our policies and procedures, the latter portion of our public comment is not a guarantee. So to respect everyone's desire to be heard and to do everything that I can to make sure that everyone here gets a chance to speak tonight, I'm going to need to hold really tight to the 3-minute rule. We're also going to change things up a little bit from normal. And to keep us moving as quickly and efficiently as possible, I will ask that if you
Recording in progress.
If you are on deck to speak, that you come up over here. Well, shoot, we've got a camera. Are you guys able to? Okay. I will call a name. Name number 1 obviously comes to the podium, but I will call several names. And if you can line up over here on the window, again, we want out of aisles so that people can get up and move freely and safely. So we'll just line up a few people at a time, and that way, as one speaker is done, we've got one queued and on deck ready to go. So I'll give you a little bit more direction as we move forward. I will now call the names that are signed up for our initial portion of public comment. Again, when I call your name as you come up here and it's your time to speak, please start with your name and address, or your name and ward, and then we'll get the clock going. So first up tonight, we have Sixatchil Delatorre. Sochi Delatorre. So you'll be up here. Then over here, lining up on the side, if I can get Benjamin Smith, Z. Williams, Brandy Burns Carey, and Cyrus LaRoche, please. When you're ready.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Xochitl de la Torre, and while I am not here specifically about JAX, I do want people to know that I do support their cause, and my heart is with JAX. Okay. I am a teacher and parent at Alameda International. Over the past 9 years since my family and I moved here in 2016, I've seen the Alameda articulation area steadily increase in population. With this growth in residential and business developments, there has been an increase in vehicular, pedestrian, and cyclist traffic. While we have become a mixed residential business district, the current speed limits do not reflect this. According to Colorado Statute 42-4-1101, business districts should have a speed limit of 25 miles per hour and residential districts a speed limit of 30 miles per hour. Though Lakewood just changed the residential speed to 20, which I think is great. As an educator and parent at Alameda International, I'm especially concerned about the potential impacts of the high speeds on my middle and high school students, as well as my own child, who use Wadsworth Boulevard and Mississippi Avenue as direct routes to and from school. From Belmar to the north and the Westwood Green Apartments to the south, Alameda middle and high school students walk and bike to and from school along Wadsworth with varying access to safe sidewalks and no bike lanes. The speed limit is 40 to 45 miles per hour with a school zone speed limit of 30 miles per hour when lights are flashing. According to the NIH, that translates to a 40 to 80% risk of serious injury or death for Alameda students, compared to a 5% risk for other Lakewood students because the speed limits around their schools are lower. Another dangerous route to and from Alameda International is Mississippi Avenue. Students living along Yarrow Street and Yukon Street are forced to jaywalk across Mississippi in order to get to and from school as there is no pedestrians crosswalk. The speed limit on Mississippi is 35 miles per hour. In order to truly create safe streets for all Lakewood, we must address these safety disparities faced by Alameda students. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin Smith.
Good evening, Benjamin Smith, Ward 3. And also, I am not here, I'm here about a different issue, but I also want to express my support for justice for Jax and trans rights. Mayor Strom, members of council, the road noise along West Mississippi Avenue is out of control. I have been asking the city to address excessively loud vehicles since October 2022. In that time, I have repeatedly contacted Public Works, the police department, 2 mayors, and numerous city councilors individually and collectively. The problem is severe. The frequent passing of noisy vehicles makes the peaceful enjoyment of my property impossible. I can't relax in my yard. I can't open my windows to cool my home. Even with doors and windows shut, trying to sleep in my basement, I am often awakened well after midnight by an extremely loud vehicle. There is no quiet haven even inside my home. What do you imagine that does to a person's mental and physical health? In October 2024, the Lakewood Advisory Commission and Neighborhood Subcommittee presented extensive research to council on the effects of noise pollution. Their findings were clear. Noise pollution harms physical and mental health, contributing to hearing loss, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, headaches, chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, aggressive behavior, and more crime. Motorcycles and vehicles with aftermarket mufflers were identified as major offenders. Crucially, only 5 to 10% of those affected will ever file a complaint. Current city and state ordinances already prohibit operating a vehicle without an adequate muffler and forbid making unreasonable noise. These laws are clear. Yet the police department openly admits they are not enforcing them, citing difficulty in doing so. The LAC report recommended revising noise ordinances for best practices, including 1, adopting the plainly audible standard for mobile sources, which allows enforcement without special equipment or training and has been repeatedly upheld in court. The cities of Denver, Boulder, and Greeley already use the plainly audible standard for noise enforcement. 2, considering noise monitoring cameras similar to red light cameras, which automatically detect, document, and ticket violators. These devices are real and already in use in other cities across the nation, including City of Golden. Additionally, basic sound level meters are cheap, reliable, and readily available. In a quick test 2 days ago, my own decibel meter measured a 95 decibel sound level from a sports car in Mississippi next to my house. This is 10,000 times the state of Colorado's maximum permissible noise level of 55 decibels in residential areas. The LAC presented their recommendations nearly a year ago. Where is the city on this? Every day of inaction protects the lawbreaker instead of the law-abiding resident. I urge you to make enforcement of vehicle laws a priority now. Thank you.
Thank you. Z. Williams.
Good evening, council. My name is Z. Williams. My pronouns are they and them, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. When I first came to you, there were 8 of us in Jax's ashes. This is the power of Jax. Saturday is her 35th birthday. And I'm here to talk to you about a very specific ask of our campaign, and that is independent oversight. Independent oversight is critical because there is a culture in policing called the blue wall of silence. This is a code between officers that is embedded in the culture. It is not an independent choice that extends to silence with regard to error, misconduct, and even brutality. This is why we need an independent oversight committee. The very culture of policing requires a level of secrecy amongst officers, and that includes denial of mistakes or wrongdoing. Independent oversight is critically important, and frankly, it's democratic. Adding a police officer to a citizen-run board creates a power dynamic. Police have an inherent power dynamic and might make people feel unsafe. They will make people, especially trans people and marginalized people, feel unsafe. People might fear that they will be retaliated against, that they will be prosecuted, that they will be targeted because of expressing dissenting views. They also might not be willing to share perspectives of lived experience because they fear retaliation or prosecution based on those issues. We need independent oversight because of this. Remember that trans people are over-policed. We are over-incarcerated. We are profiled. Remember that trans people, especially women and especially Black, Indigenous, and other trans women of color, are more likely to be targeted with violence and sexual assault, that we are more likely to be mistreated and ignored by the institutions that allege to keep us safe. Oversight is needed because of a lack of trust in policing. That's why it has to be independent. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Jax and how this is giving a gift to Jax's community that is hurting so deeply. Jax is someone who died in our city, in Lakewood. She was the kind of person that if you met her once, you felt like you were her best friend. She would give you the biggest hug and the warmest smile and go out of her way to greet you every time after that. People here may not have even known her and feel connected to her because how deeply she loved, how deeply she cared. She would spend her own money to make care kits for unhoused people, would give folks salon haircuts because she wanted everyone to have that experience. Jax's birthday is Saturday, and we can't celebrate it with her alive, but you can give her community a sense of peace and let her legacy be one of justice. Long live Jax Gratton.
Thank you. Brandy Burns Carey. And as Ms. Carey is coming up front, we'll ask Cyrus LaRoche, Amanda Phillips, and Jamie Frederick to please go ahead and hang out on deck. The floor is yours.
My name is Brandy Carey. I am not a resident of Lakewood, but I am here as a friend of Jax and as a resident of the state of Colorado. They have no idea the deep, deep hurt and disorientation that is even experienced from us trans people, opening our eyes in the morning and being present in our bodies. Every day is a battle that you know you'll never win, so instead, you just run and hide to take cover from it as much as you can. Every day is a fight for our own bodies, a fight with the society, a fight with the healthcare system, a fight with the government. But no matter how tired we are, we continue and will continue to fight each day because our lives matter. Good evening, it's nice to see you all again. Those words are from two very important people in my life who happen to be transgender individuals within our community. I wanted to start you off with that. Over the past month, you've heard us speak about various reasons why we are asking for an independent oversight task force to be created. And tonight, I'd like to share with you just some statistics on why this community feels this way. And when you take these statistics and add it on to what we see here, it should be polarizing. Did you know that 62% of our transgender community members do not feel safe asking police for help because of their gender identity? Because they fear they will not be heard or believed. 40.3 people who reported, out of that, 47% have experienced at least one form of verbal harassment, while 6% have reported physical and sexual violence put towards them by the police. 58% of transgender people who had interactions with police revealed that because of their trans identity, they had been harassed, abused, and mistreated. This shows a major barrier to crimes or to people who seek protection for our justice system, the system that's supposed to protect everyone equally and give everyone a fair shot. The system is supposed to protect us, but it continues to cause harm. You've all heard our reasons on why we ask for independent oversight. Jax was an important person and made people feel loved, and I'd like to leave you with these words that I found from a client of hers when I cleaned out the remainders of her suite on Saturday. Jax, thank you for all the seeds of light, love, and beauty you plant every day. Thank you for helping me and so many others feel more comfortable in their skin and in this world. You are beautiful inside and out. Much love, Teresa. We demand an independent oversight task force for our friend and for other trans people going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyrus LaRoche.
I would like to opt out for the night after.
Okay.
I appreciate
Okay. Amanda Phillips?
Hi, I live in southeast Denver, and I'm a nearby neighbor of Jack's. Never met her, but just fell in love with her throughout her mom's spirit and our search from day one. I started helping search for her. Excuse me, I've already gone 2 minutes, 47 seconds? Or that's what's left?
You have 2 minutes and 45 seconds left.
Can I start
Yeah.
over? Because I haven't even started my statement yet. I'm messed up, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Rob, can we start 3 minutes? So when you come up here, you'll see the clock starts at 3 minutes. So once it gets to 0, that means the time's
Okay.
up. So you're good.
Thank y'all. I have the honor of reading Jax's mother's statement tonight. Here's her statement. Good evening, council members. I am delivering Sherlyn Gratton Camus's, Jax Gratton's proud mother's plea for justice. Wednesday would be Jack's 35th birthday. I cannot tell you how painful it was to have the first of the month roll around and miss Jax's call. Mom, I'm so excited. It's my birthday month. I will never again hear her voice on the other end of the phone. I won't get her fit check videos. I won't hear her drama, her joy, or her new adventures. As a mother, I have experienced something beyond nightmarish. My daughter was missing for 2 months. Her friends had to help me find her. People sent me endless transphobia, conspiracy theories, and made up stories about Jax. I endured it for Jax. When she was found dead, I hoped I would have a little bit of peace. Instead, I have been launched into a 2-month battle for decency, dignity, and care for my daughter. It's so painful because of the kind of person my daughter was. She was vivacious and dramatic. Her kindness and care for people guided her every day. Instead of finding solace in her memories, my days are full of media calls, autopsies, research, managing rumors, coordinating with the police, and advocacy. I do this for Jax. I also do this for other mothers. No one should have this pain. No mother should have to fight in the midst of heartbreak. We need independent oversight now. The key word here is independent. Justice for Jax and justice for this broken-hearted mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Frederick, and then if we could have over here on deck, Katrina Whitehead, Jose Pab Martinez, and then Connie Reddick. Ms. Reddick, we might have you come up here instead. I think that will probably be easier for you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jamie Frederick. My pronouns are they, she, and I'm here to speak on the need for independent oversight. Jax is a shining light in our community, and I'm sure you can see that in all the people behind me. It will remain one of the biggest regrets of my life that I only got to know her through her death. I am here to speak not just for myself as a trans person, but for so many others I know who are terrified. With the deaths of trans people often getting pushed aside or written off by the police, and even their names not being respected. One final insult that I know fills so many people of my community with dread. These and other systemic mistreatments are why we need independent oversight. For Jax, for all other trans people, you have a chance to bring real change here and now. But independent oversight needs to be that, independent of the police. You cannot responsibly oversee your friends, and they have shown time and time again they cannot oversee themselves. Showing that the police cannot sit on that committee. It has to be run by the community, by people who understand the dangers and pains we face, and by those who can and will hold law enforcement accountable. It cannot be run by people who have harmed our community, who cannot oversee themselves objectively. To do so would further break the trust of a community that is already terrified and hurting. We need independent oversight. Advisory boards and committees that have police sitting on them have historically been unsuccessful at penetrating the blue wall of silence, and we cannot afford that. Not in a time when my community and so many others are struggling and scared. You have an opportunity, one to truly make a change, to create one small bit of hope for the trans community and so many others. To show us that you have heard all of us. Not just the family and friends of Jax, but all the people behind me who are here to show you how very important this is, to show you how much our community is hurting, to show you how much we need independent oversight, because the police cannot oversee themselves. I hope you will listen. Long live Jax.
Thank you. Jamie Frederick? Oh, I'm sorry. Did we miss Amanda Phillips? Okay, thank you. I'm just slow checking it off. Katrina Whitehead.
Hello, my name is Katrina Whitehead. I am a resident of Adams County, and I'm here for Justice for Jax. I came here last time speaking as a therapist. I am now coming here as a mother of a trans daughter. I didn't mention it before because of my fear of being too open and risking my daughter's safety. In this current political climate, I know that many trans people feel the same way, and it doesn't help that Jax's case has been so disgustingly mismanaged and her mother so mistreated. I wanted to come as a mother today in hopes to help you understand how much this case has affected me and others who are part of the trans community. Seeing how Jax and her mother have been treated is so devastating because I question how my daughter would be treated if she is a victim of a crime. Would people just view her as a transgender? Being trans is only one small part of who my daughter is. Just as Jax is so much more. I never knew Jax. But taking the time to get to know her through her friends and family, I know that she was a kind-hearted and magnificent person who could light up her room when she walked in it. She deserves to be seen as the person she was, and this is why an independent oversight committee is needed. I understand that the chief of police has plans to get training to help him and his department to have more understanding towards trans people. Yet, I will repeat what other people have said. It's too late. It's too late because the hurt and trauma and distrust is already there. It's too late because dead naming and dehumanizing Jax continues to happen. It's too late because you can't learn how to have empathy overnight. How Jax and her loved ones have been treated has been more than just hurt feelings. It's traumatizing. This is why an independent oversight committee is needed, so respect and genuine care can be given. One important thing I know about mothers who accept their trans children, we are unrelenting in our fight for our children. I will be unrelenting in this about what happens with Jack's case because how she is treated will affect how others will treat my daughter. I love my daughter so much, and I will do anything to protect her. Jax's mom will also be unrelenting because even in death, Jax deserves respect and justice. As moms, we are pleading, please see our daughters as precious humans and help us fight by allowing an independent oversight committee to take over this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Martinez. I remind you guys, please, to no volume. I very much appreciate that you want to support each other, but let's keep our speakers going. Thank you very much for following the rules.
Good evening. My name is Jose Pablo Martinez. I am one of the representatives of the Spanish-speaking Latino LGBTQ trans community. As we were invited to participate in the speaking tonight, I also extended the invitation to many of our Spanish-speaking trans sisters and brothers. They did not feel safe coming to speak. They were afraid of being identified and targeted later on through media or through being shown on public channels. And so this is a real fear that these people live with daily. I wanted to speak about the character of Jack's mother. When I began dealing with Jack's mother, someone who I've never personally met, I knew that she was educated, she was smart, she was caring. She actually became the comforter to the community who was suffering rather than being comforted by the community. She immediately began the role of being a mother to many people that did not have family. She was very educated. She was always patient. And she always expressed to me that she was always willing to understand and accept the truth, whatever the truth would be. However, she feels that she's been cheated of this. There's been so many issues that have been brought up that we don't understand, and that's why this is very important that you grant this request that there be independent oversight, because it is very important to the community, not just here, but internationally, because you are being watched internationally. We have made it specifically a goal to also inform the world of what's going on here locally, because this affects us. The fight for trans rights, for equality, for justice is not just a local issue, it's an international issue. We are an international community. We have the backing of our international brothers and sisters throughout the LGBT world. You are being watched. You will be held accountable for whatever you decide to do. We are asking that you grant this because it is important to us that you show that you care about our community, that you are invested in our community and our safety and our protection. Again, I want to reiterate that my experiences with Jack's mother have been very, very wonderful. She's educated, she's smart, she's understanding, she's empathetic. She's not ignorant, she's not dumb, she's not just a suffering mother that just doesn't want to listen or accept what's going on. She knows what's going on, and that's why we have found strength through her. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reddick.
I'm Connie Reddick from Ward 3, and one of my representatives is Roger Lowe. And my issue is I've been asking for help, and all of you say, let's take a little time so that we can speak to God, and everything's about God, our money, our flag, everything. But where is your God? Because when I have come to you asking for help, and Lowe, since you own part of my building, our building has major problems with mold, with the electricity. Teresa Bradley died 2 weeks ago. She was a woman in a wheelchair that needed oxygen, and the oxygen went out because the circuit breaker went out because all of the windows, the water went in through the windows and hit the circuit breaker, and she died. I've been coming in here for already 6 years, every other Monday to ask for help. But because I have been an activist, I represented at Colorado 1. I have been in all pride parades except for 4. I have fought for, I'm an activist, I have fought for equality for all. And I mean all. I'm Native American, and Native Americans, a lot of medicine men have come to me and asked me to speak the truth. And I'm speaking the truth about our building and about the way the people are treated. Being biracial, being an indigenous woman, a black woman, a Latina, I have not gotten any respect from any one of you. And because I haven't, that's why a lot of people are dying in my building. And they're being harassed because there is a lot of nepotism. Nepotism at Metro West Solution, and they have their relatives working, their relatives in office and mistreating the people that are living there. They work for us, we don't work for them. And we have not gotten the help that we have needed. People are suffering, they're being abused mentally, physically, and harassed and bullied. And there are all these laws that you do not abide by. You wanted, as mayor, to be over Metro West and all the fair housing authorities, but you have not did the work in order to protect the people that live in this housing. Also, there's the problem with the not only with the water, but with the managers thinking that it's okay to harass and tell people when somebody goes into your apartment and you're naked and you're going to be evicted because you cuss out the maintenance guy. Where is there? I am disabled. I do not have, excuse me, I want you to all remember my face. I have not had an ADA apartment. I moved in and they wouldn't even clean the rugs where a lady died with her intestines exploding. My doctor has written them several letters about—
Ms. Reddick, your time has expired.
Several letters about reasonable accommodations. and none of you have tried to help me whatsoever. So I'm asking for everybody's support because I've never
Ms.
asked for
Reddick,
money
I
as
need
an
you to
activist
please
represent
leave the
Colorado
front.
One and all people that need help. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our initial public comment period. For general public comment, we'll now move on to this evening's consent agenda. Council, do we have any items that are being requested to be removed from this evening's consent agenda?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to pull item 6A.
Any other items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please read the amended consent agenda into the record?
The amended consent agenda is comprised of the following items. Item 5A, R 2025-45, authorizing the assignment to the Housing Authority of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, DBA Metro West Housing Solutions of the City of Lakewood 2025 Private Activity Bond Volume Cap Allocation pursuant to the Colorado Private Activity Bond Ceiling Allocation Act. Item 5B, R 2025-46, approving an interagency agreement with Jefferson County, City of Arvada, City of Golden, City of Westminster, and City of Wheat Ridge. Item 5C, R 2025-47, adjusting the stormwater management utilities service charge for the City of Lakewood. Item 7A, approving minutes of the City Council meetings, regular City Council meeting, July 28, 2025.
Thank you very much. And I do not have anyone signed up to speak on the consent agenda this evening. Do we have anyone that would like to speak on the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mayor Strom, I move for the approval of the City Council minutes and for adoption of resolutions, all of which are included in the consent agenda items introduced in the record by the City Clerk.
Second.
Didn't we have first reading ordinance, or was that the only? Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any council discussion? Councilor Lowe?
I mean, I didn't pull it from the consent agenda. I do think just in sort of in the spirit of transparency and fairness to the public, we should like ask someone from Public Works to just come up and briefly speak to the. I mean, there was a bunch. I did not have any questions about the materials, but I think it would be useful to just explain to the public like why the stormwater fee is necessary to increase. So, if we could maybe have a couple of minutes on that.
While we're waiting for that, I'll make a note that there is supporting information also on Lakewood Speaks about that topic for anyone that would like to do a deeper dive.
Evening, Mr. Hill.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The stormwater management utility is a citywide utility that maintains stormwater infrastructure throughout the entire city, as I said. Stormwater infrastructure includes not only storm sewer pipes and stormwater inlets, but also major drainage way channels, as well as curb and gutter and drainage pans that we might see as we're driving along roadways, as well as ditches along our side streets. The stormwater service charge adjustment that's before you tonight would, in essence, bring that service charge from what would be $4.99 a month up to $7.99 a month. So there is an increase, but $7.49, excuse me. That is needed due to a very expansive network of infrastructure, much of which is constructed of corrugated metal pipe. Much of it is beyond its service life, and we need to be active and proactive about replacing that infrastructure, of which our current service charge does not allow for as robust a program there. Additionally, the capital program needs that we have between local drainage, There's over 100 needs currently on our list, of which we are actively working to move through those projects, though we aren't moving through them as fast as we would like. There are many requests and many needs on that. At the current pace, it looks like we would be able to get through all of our current needs, capital and local, in about 285 years. This request, and of course that's not something that is feasible, not something that we are willing to accept. So to be able to make this first step in the service charge adjustment is going to bring us to a place where we are able to do that in 50 years, which is a little bit more reasonable within a generation.
Mr. Hill, I think we all up here know how thoughtful and careful you are and how much you double check and triple check your work before it comes in front of us. Bottom line, for those of us who do have constituents that ask why this as a percentage, fairly, I think it's around a 50% increase, why this increase to the stormwater fee is necessary. Are you satisfied that, that there's not some other easy low-hanging fruit answer that could have been cuts here or there that could have, allowed us to increase this by less, that this is indeed necessary to fund the infrastructure that the city needs in the medium to long term with respect to stormwater drainage?
It is needed. All revenue for the stormwater management utility comes through service charges, so there are no other revenues that come to the city. We are always actively looking for other ways to bring in grants or other ways to complete projects. One of the ways that we always are reaching out and partnering is with the Mile High Flood District. And they do partner with us on an annual basis, and we maximize that partnership as much as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have no additional hands up, so we'll go ahead and vote. Again, a yes vote will be to pass the consent agenda. A no, obviously, would be the opposite. And that passes 11 yeses and 0 noes. Okay, so moving on to item 6A, which is no longer on the consent agenda. I will go ahead and give the floor to Councilor Nystrom, who pulled that from the consent agenda, for a few comments.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I'm pulling this is through, and thanks to Councilor Ken Cruz for coordinating a series of roundtables. He was able to lock down a location for all of them before I was able to lock down any location, so much appreciated. We've had some really good conversations with residents on this topic, and it's a massive undertaking, as we all know, and we've all spent a lot of time reviewing the materials and listening to constituents. It became apparent to me that there's a lot of outstanding questions that I think need to be resolved before we can move forward and vote on this. And I think at the last count from our deputy city manager, he had 58 pages of questions we had submitted. So, and they're still coming. I think some of the main things that people have asked for, and by the way, there is one more roundtable on August 14th at the New American School at 5806 West Alameda, if you haven't had a chance to attend one. Residents have been asking for maps that are a little more legible. They're hoping that we can use the GIS system to produce some of this and maybe an interactive map. They're asking for a map with an overlay of the old and new zoning and a map that overlays the RTD map with the proposed zoning, which is foundational to this whole initiative. The other main concerns that were brought up was the imposition on home rule. All of the documents are only in English. And there's some inconsistencies and a lack of understanding on how certain decisions were made for zoning in different areas. The other concerns were increasing density in neighborhoods with narrow streets, no sidewalks or storm drainage, and no place to put sidewalks in the future. And I think it's fair to say that once the maps are provided, and I understand staff is working on that, But I think the residents need an opportunity to review that, come back to us with questions and suggestions, and we've gotten a lot of really good feedback in these sessions. Some of the larger questions remain about understanding conversations with Denver Water, whether the water supply is going to be adequate, proposed changes, whether they've been discussed with West Metro Fire. Residents have concerns about impact on taxes, insurance, et cetera. And I think it's important that we vet these items before we move to a vote. And I think the other outstanding items that I think need to be addressed is the tree ordinance during this process. We are in a non-attainment area in terms of water or air quality. We have the 7th worst air quality in the nation. So we cannot continue to lose mature trees and hope to improve that. And I think there's other opportunities. We're also going to lose trees due to age. But, we have ash borer, and the continuing increasing heat every year is going to be detrimental. I also think it would be helpful, and I've shared this with fellow councilors, that we so far have 40 identified properties that are underutilized. And if we take a concerted effort, streamline the permitting process, which the Director of Public Works is already on and working hard on, we create some special tax incentives. We have the potential to develop properties that already have water taps and already have electricity. And I think these are all efforts that are worth taking a look at. And I think, again, having an opportunity to review maps and address some outstanding questions related to the proposed zoning would really help a great deal in terms of understanding and how we can move forward.
Thank you. I do have one additional hand up right now. Anybody that would like to speak, feel free. Go ahead and raise your hand. And then a quick note that what we want to do, we're not discussing like the zoning code right now. We want to make sure that we're talking specifically to the changes that may be proposed, that will be proposed as a result of pulling it from the consent agenda. So Councilor Furman, you're up.
Thank you. I agree. In our ward meetings, we've had, and we've seen numerous emails with questions and concerns. And some of it stems, I think, directly from people needing more time to digest what is a fairly sizable ordinance change. And so I'd like to end up making a motion here. And the reason being is I'm hoping that if we're able to do a couple different things, which is one, break this into parts so that we are able to have conversations around the pieces of this zoning so that it is a more digestible conversation. I find that in the ward meetings we've had, what tends to happen is the conversation becomes almost unwieldy because there is so many things, as you point out, that are of concern. Additionally, I think there's elements within the zoning that are generally liked, and there are elements that are more contentious. And so in an effort to allow more time for people to understand this zoning, to read it and to digest it, to have conversations, the round tables, et cetera, I'm going to propose that we break it up into 3 parts plus the map so that we can have separate conversations about this and can drill into those pieces that we may want to look at amendments or changes for, so that we can address those concerns. And I think a big piece of this is making sure the community feels they've had an opportunity to speak about it and to make sure they understand it. Because I think there is some of these things, there's concerns that just haven't been expressed. They may be addressed, but we haven't had a chance to talk to everyone. So with that in mind, and I'll read this amendment just because I couldn't memorize all the dates off the top of my head. So I move to amend the ordinance O 2025-27, introduced on first reading, to be separated into 4 ordinances as follows. 1 ordinance for updates to Articles 6 to 14 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion with public hearings set for September 8th, 2025. A 2nd ordinance for updates to Articles 1, 2, and 4
and 5 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearings set for September 22nd, 2025. A third ordinance for updates to Article 3 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearings set for October 13th, 2025. And a fourth ordinance for updates to the zoning map to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearings set for October 27th, 2025. And order all ordinances as introduced on first reading to be published in the Denver Post, with the public hearings set for the date stated in the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I have a couple of hands up. Councilor Ken Cruz.
Yeah, I mean, I think through these zoning code roundtables, I think the community is really just trying to gauge and have clear visual guides showing what can and cannot be built in each zone. This will ideally help addressing top community misconceptions. And I think that that would just be the due diligence of us ensuring that we're providing that information. I've now had 4 Spanish-speaking families, reach out and say that they aren't even allowed to engage due to the zoning code and the guides being only in English. So I guess one of the biggest asks I would just include is, these additional resources or guides that we'd be building out would also be in Spanish as well, ensuring that those, community members can engage with this process.
Councilor Matt Guerrero.
I think that the principle of this makes a lot of sense, but I have a couple of questions to feel like it's a responsible move. I think my first question is, so this breaks it into larger pieces, but of course without having all the numbers and then my zoning book in front of me, I don't actually know which sections those are. So I think one question is, what are the themes of the article breakdown that you just did, and why did you choose these chunks? Is it just even pages? And then I think my other question is based on this. This is maybe actually to staff, which is, assuming that every single section that just got laid out would still end up going to third reading, will we end up still passing this, given that also the budget is happening, before we have potentially a bunch of new council people who aren't well read in on this, who would not basically show up in the middle of November knowing the details of this ordinance? I know that I've personally, and I know all of my colleagues have spent huge amounts of hours poring over this very long draft in this form, in the previous forms, et cetera. And I think it's less about who those council people might be or what have you, but more the idea of sort of just resetting that conversation that has been many, many years in the making, and that worries me. So those are my 2 questions. So I think the first one is about the content split up, and if there's a reason. And if the answer is it's basically just even, and that was the advice of staff that this kind of makes sense, that's totally fine. But if there's more reasoning, I'd love to know it.
I'll have to read through the sections, but essentially the second set has more of the purpose and procedural pieces. The first set has a lot more of the parts that are going to be things like your standards. The map is obviously separate. And then Article 3, sorry, just one second.
Ms. Stanek, off the top of your head, do you know what Article 3 is?
Yes, Article 3 is the zone districts article, and it's introducing a relatively new concept of the form-based zoning. So this is going to be the article that first introduces the low and mid-form residential concepts, which I think has some of the comments that you've all received has been about these particular zone districts or these new zone districts.
Thank you.
Which is the intent of why that is isolated, because that is obviously the most contentious piece.
Yep, that totally makes sense. Thank you. And then I think my next question about scheduling. I guess not even before the election. That's not it, but before people are actually replaced.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
As it was currently laid out, yes, this would conclude before new council members would be sworn in. it does leave a little bit of wiggle room. I know you all have been talking about the potential for a third reading or a continuation, so I think there would be a little wiggle room there as well. So I do think, as proposed, you could conclude by November or around that time.
Thank you so much. I think my last concern, and I'm actually just really curious what my colleagues think about this question, which is, I mean, so Councilor Cruz, I had our ward meeting on Saturday where we spent a fair amount of time laying out the dates and the upcoming correct moments to engage with council, with staff, and with the mayor for this process. And I think that spreading it out does make it easier, but I also have like a little bit of heartburn around shifting something that we've been like trying to help community along with understanding the timing and how they can best be influential and best be a part of it. And so while I know that there's the other side of that concern, which is doing it all at once, it's massive. Can any regular person really like engage with that effectively? Is like, those are the things to balance. And so I think if it feels to people that gives, because here's the thing. Okay, so to me that gives like another 2 months, 1.5 months, depending on how things go down, and that doesn't actually give me enough time to then re-engage in the amount of outreach that I've done over the summer on each of these sections now individually, whereas the amount of sort of time and work and outreach that has been put in by, I think, all of us since basically the spring, and then since the last version of this came out in July, that's been something where we've done a ton of community meetings, a ton of meetings with like leaders in the advocacy space, a ton of meetings with like shown up at other types of neighborhood association meetings, et cetera, and like laid out this exact timeline, how and when to give comment, how and when to show up. And I don't want to have this, what I think is very, very good theory and values to then like backfire and be the opposite, where now people feel confused about when and how to show up on which issue. And now we're asking community to show up for 5 or 4 meetings, 4-ish, depending on third readings, right? Somewhere between 3 and 6 new meetings instead of the one meeting that they were planning to show up for. And that like concerns me that we might actually like lose the engagement of regular people, even though I think folks that sort of follow really tightly will be able to do it. But I genuinely want to know the arguments because I just feel torn about it.
Thank you. I have Councilor Sinks, then Councilor Lowe.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, as we vote tonight, we'll be voting on sending it to publication, which is what first reading does. And in the publication, you will list all the dates. Is that correct? Okay. And so then when we get to the dates, for example, 9/8, 9/22, those will be considered the second reading of those different articles. And so then what I wonder also, will then each article have potential for a third reading, or how would then finally all of the zoning code be grouped together in a third reading? Does your amendment address that?
No.
No.
But yes, but no. Yes, we would all still have the opportunity to have a third reading on each topic. However, it wouldn't necessarily come back and be conjoined for the third.
So it can or cannot be conjoined for the third reading?
It wouldn't be conjoined for the
okay.
third, but we may have a third hearing if council decides that they would like to have a third hearing.
All right. And so that would take us probably into November if we did a third reading, if we had the map for October 27th. So,
Mr. Goldstein, do you want to speak to calendaring?
Yeah, so for the 4th public hearing, if it were to be continued, or as you're referring it to, a third reading, that would likely take place. Staff would probably try and do that on November 3rd, because we likely won't hold a regular council meeting on November 10th. So we could still do a third reading or a continuation of that second reading or public hearing for the fourth item.
Great.
And the others would just happen sequentially. So you might double stack on one meeting. If you have a third reading from the first set that were being considered, that would happen at the next meeting.
Great. Thanks for that clarification.
One thing, too, to remember is that we're taking one big conversation and breaking it up into 4 nights. So where I know a number of folks have expressed an absolute desire to do a third reading, as we were talking about it as a big chunk, that may or may not be necessary for each of the 4 individual chunks, but it is still an option for each one. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Mr. Goldstein, just building on that, thank you, Councillor Zink's very helpful. But would the November 3rd meeting, if that happened in that eventuality, would that be a, quote, special meeting, I'm assuming, because that we don't normally have a city council meeting on the first Monday of the month, correct?
Yeah, I think we would probably be somewhat anticipatory on that and change that meeting from a study session to a regular or special meeting to be able to handle a potential continuation of that fourth discussion.
So for all the reasons that Councillor Matt-Guerrero ably articulated, I am for finishing our very important homework on this with this current council of folks who have been studying this for 2 years and not kicking this to folks that just got elected. I am just also imagining, so if it comes down to it, I'm supportive of doing that. But it does seem to me that we would want to try to calendar this to avoid the necessity for a special meeting if possible. I just could imagine, I have a funny feeling in 2 months, I could imagine some folks basically alleging that the special meeting was somehow trying to rush the process, despite the fact that the process has been ongoing for 2 years, and the whole point of this is to actually give the community more chance to engage and more chance to offer feedback. Given that, and given the other point that Councillor Matt-Guerrero raised that I also totally agree with, which is that folks are already expecting a chance for hearing on August 25th, I guess I'm moved to ask, why not start the second reading process on August 25th? That shifts everything one meeting earlier. So if we did it that way, A, it solves the problem that Councillor Matt-Guerrero identified. Folks who already were planning to come on August 25th to comment could start commenting on zoning because there would be at least one, the first part of 4 parts would be on second reading on August 25th. Then part 2 would be on second reading September 8th. Part 3 would be on second reading September 22nd. And part 4, which as I understand it from your suggestion, Councillor Furman, would be the map, would be on second reading, I believe, October 13th. And if it needed to go to a third reading, it could then go to third reading on October 27th, obviating the need for a special meeting on November 3rd. So I guess my question is, why not do it that way? That solves both of the questions that Councillor Matt-Guerrero raised. It gives us the chance to have folks who are still planning to come do public comment on August 25th still do that, and it keeps us on track without the need for a special meeting. So if we're going to go down this road and do it in chunks, it just seems to me like we would want to start the second reading process in 2 weeks rather than 4 weeks, unless there's a good reason to not do it that way in terms of the timeline or staff capacity or something that I'm not seeing, which I'm certainly open to.
I believe that's a question to me. Is that correct, Councilmember Lowe?
It was a question to the.
Statement?
It was a question to anyone who wanted to. I think it was a question for in part to you from a staff perspective, but it's also a question to Councillor Furman and Councillor Nystrom and the folks that are suggesting sort of tiering this up in the way that they have. But I would welcome your reaction, Mr. Goldstein, on the feasibility of that.
Staff is happy to take any direction from City Council. I'll start with that. We are trying to give the community as much time as possible to react and absorb and comment. So I think, that I think was the goal of Councilmember Furman. So staff is very supportive of that. If you all want to move the timeline up, we will do our best to accommodate that. But I think the goal is to give the community as much time as possible.
Okay, just since it is topical, I am just going to take a moment to. I totally appreciate, and I'm open to this, and I'm willing to support this in the spirit of the feedback we've gotten. Councillor Nystrom, thank you for your thoughtfulness. I know how much time you've taken to sort of engage with the community. Councillor Furman, Councillor Cruz, Kay Cruz, thank you for the zoning roundtables you've been setting up. I was able to join one of them. I know you've done 4 of them. I think it was helpful. I think the point you raised, I am very interested in this question of making sure that this information is made available to the community in a bilingual way. I think that's a very important point. And having said all that, I do encourage folks to check out lakewoodtogether.org/zoning updates, where there are updates on the engagement that's been done since February 14th, including a long, long list. I'm not going to read all of them, but February 14th, launch of project page, city's digital engagement platform. March 12th, front page article. February 14th, March 7th, March 21st, March 28th, April 4th, April 11th, April 18th, April 25th, May 2nd, May 9th, May 23rd, May 30th. Friday reports. Social media, March 12th through June 2nd. Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, YouTube, 20 posts. Registered organizations newsletter, March 19th. Lakewood Together newsletters, March 20th. I'm not going to read all this. Nextdoor, March 20th. Featured box on lakewood.org, March and April. Your Hub section of the Denver Post, March 18th. Jeffco transcript, March 18th. Posting, Registered Organizations newsletter, April 15th. Scroll all the way down. 227,000 touch points with resident. But that's not all. Let's go to the update that was just posted involving zoning updates outreach from June 2nd through August 11th. Lakewood Together, new form questions, new quick polls, and updated zoning codes with red lines. Friday reports June 6th, June 27th, August 1st.
Point of order.
Fair enough.
This is still a first reading ordinance.
Yeah.
What's happening?
My point is that there has been a lot of opportunity for the community to weigh in and provide feedback. I'm supportive of doing this, but I don't see a reason to defer this entire thing for an entire month when we can start the process in 2 weeks and give the community that wants a chance to comment on this, that was planning to come on August 25th, a chance to comment on August 25th. I think that if the main reason is we want to give people as much time as possible, I'm fine tranching this up. But I think a much better plan, if that's really the reason, is to start the second reading progress on August 25th, and folks across the ideological spectrum who have all kinds of views who are planning to come and do public comment at our second reading public hearing on August 25th can still do that. And I didn't even get a chance to mention the 5 ward meetings that Mr. Parker attended across all 5 wards that were on this list. I won't read the rest, but it's all in Lakewood Together /zoning updates. My point is, I get it. I think it's a fair point. I'm for doing this, and there has been almost a year of opportunity for engagement, and I do think that starting second reading on August 25th to keep this sort of train moving makes a lot of sense to me.
Councilor Furman, a response?
I will say, for me, the biggest key here, right, is the opportunity for people and the time. I think time is critical, but the other big piece is the breaking it up so that we can have substantive conversations about these various parts. I mean, if the dates become a critical stopping point, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. For me, it is that debate of how much time. I think we have community members who have, and right or wrong, we have community members who we've seen email and speak to us, still surprised about it, and I get that it has been out there, right? I mean, I joined and listened in on the advisory committees when I was on the planning commission and watched those meetings go on. So I do accept that. The most critical piece is breaking it though into digestible chunks so that we can actually have valuable conversations about this. So.
Okay, I've got a few other hands up, and then we'll circle back to dotting our I's and crossing our T's on what we're actually moving forward with. Councilor Ryan, then Mayor Pro Tem Jarzai, and then Councilor Mia Guerrero.
I think it was a great suggestion that Councilor Ken Cruz made about this may not be accessible to many in our community. So my question would be, and I don't know that you'll know the answer off the top of your head, but hopefully we could get one, and I think it's pertinent to this discussion. That is, how long will it take the city to make this document and the supporting documents available?
I'm sorry, I do not have that answer.
Yeah, my guess is probably not before August 25th.
I will say that we do have pretty good translation tools built into our website, and some of this might be translated that way. That's not the same as having it professionally translated. We typically have documents professionally translated. That does take time. This is a massive document. It's nearly 400 pages. So I don't, and it's complicated. So I don't know the time frame on that, but I certainly can get back to council.
I think for that reason, I'm very much leaning in support of the dates as they were proposed. I understand everything that Councilor Lowe mentioned, and sympathetic to the notion of that we, and Councilor Matt Guerrero, that we do have folks who are anticipating August 25th. That's certainly a date I had circled on my calendar and rearranged some things because it is such an important date, but making sure that this is accessible to everyone, I think, is also equally important. And waiting a little bit longer is, I think, necessary.
Mayor Pro Tem Sherzai.
Yes, thank you. We just had a board meeting on Saturday, and we had, of course, a lot of questions from folks. We also had questions from folks that have attended all of the roundtables. So I think, to Councilor Lowe's point, there may never be an end to when folks have questions for that. And for that reason, I would advocate for us to start on August 25th, to just start this process. So the language access piece, I think, is a question, but I do think that there are tools that are available that we could run this document through. But I don't want to misspeak on that. If there was an avenue where we could provide language access at a quick pace, I would advocate for that, because I know that in Ward 1, for example, those folks, whether they agree or disagree, they are ready to come and have this conversation publicly. And I'd like to pick up reading the list that Councilor Lowe was reading to just reinforce that point, but I won't. But I do think there are tremendous examples of how there is engagement, and I recognize that for some people this may be new information, but that doesn't relegate the truth here. There has been a number of opportunities to engage on this. There are a lot of resources that do need some language access. I do think being able to chunk this out for folks so that they can come focused on these article segments for each reading will be really helpful in that process. But I would advocate for an earlier start date if Councilor Furman's open to that friendly amendment.
Councilor Matt Guerrero.
So I think that the idea that having this broken into pieces will be helpful for us to be able to have a good conversation is more true than it is for the community, which I'm into, right? The idea of us having to have a marathon meeting where we're here until whatever time in order to finish it because we just have to get through this giant document is a hard way to make policy, and it's a hard thing for community to follow. I think my continued concern is, so if we break it up, for example, I think that there's a fair amount of people that I've spoken to over the last 2 to 3 weeks since it was published in particular that are not people that are on my Instagram, for example, or who follow everything on the city's websites. And so I really feel concerned that then if I guess perhaps this is a question for the mayor, and would we be able to, I would also agree that starting on August 25th would be great because it will then allow anyone who has circled that date on their calendar to show up and give relevant comment that's on the record in a public hearing related to zoning. But to that end, would we be willing to be flexible with what parts of the zoning people are talking about or advocating for during those public hearings? Because this is my other issue, is I don't imagine that the typical resident or citizen or anyone who lives in Lakewood and wants to speak to this, the vast majority of people are not going to have a clear understanding of how each of these hearings are different. Because again, I think that's something that would have taken the education that we've been doing on the timing and on how to show up and on how to influence this topic. And I worry that if we have someone, say, show up on August 25th who wants to talk about the maps, and we'll say, no, you have to come back for that, which is what we would typically do, and that makes sense. But that to me, also worries me that it won't actually result in better, more transparent public engagement, that this will actually just add a barrier. This is, I think, always my issue, right, whenever we're trying to make things more fair and more transparent, there's that growing pains where when we change something, until the public knows that process is changed, it is worse for a little while. That was true when we changed our public comment which I think ultimately is better. We get to guarantee that we hear from community. We get to guarantee that we also get to hear from community on the agenda items in a way that we couldn't before we made that policy change. And ultimately, I think that was more fair, more equitable, more transparent. We hear from more people. But there was that brief period for the first couple months where people who had been engaging with us in a certain way had whiplash and didn't know how to show up anymore. And doing that on something as high stakes as zoning is what's worrying me. And so I think I wonder, both legally and technically, but also from the mayor's perspective as the person who runs our meetings and sets those norms, is that maybe something that we could adjust for? Is there a way that we could make sure that people who show up for any of these are able to speak to, if they're not clear, that they're still able to give those comments, because I still think that they're necessary.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and I think that's something we can figure out. Yep. Councillor Isabel Cruz, then Councillor LeBure.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation on this. I think I'm inclined to, more inclined to support this proposal with the dates that Councillor Lowe was suggesting, just because I really do think that the August 25th date is one that people were preparing to be here for. And I know, as kind of Councillor Matt Guerrero was mentioning, at our ward meeting, people were already like, oh, okay, the meeting already changed once. Like, when am I coming back? And so I am a little bit concerned about that. And in terms of the language access piece, I think that is really important. And I think, at least from what I'm reading in the parts of the zoning code that would be up on the 25th, are frankly just not parts that I've been getting particularly much feedback about from anyone, which is not to say that our Spanish-speaking community members might not have a different take on that, but I do think that straddling this line of when is enough time going to be enough time, which I think we've already delayed this by 3 months. This will be another couple of months, right? Like, to me, the most accessible documents that are going to be meaningful for people, particularly when we know a lot of folks use like oral materials, perhaps rather than written materials. And I think a 400-page zoning code is inaccessible in English as it will be in Spanish. Like, I don't think that that's like super, I don't think that that's 100% aligned with language access. But I do think like some of these one-pagers and digging into the issues that people in the community care about, which are coming later, is aligned with making sure that we have equitable access for folks. And so that's where I'm coming down on that. And I think that in order to really make sure that we capture interest in the community and respect the input of, folks who are excited to come and tell us that they hate this, or folks like the 11 organizations and dozens of people who are really excited about what we're doing and wanted it done yesterday. Like, I think that we have a line to straddle here, and to me, starting on the 25th feels more aligned with moving forward in a way that balances the needs of all people in our community.
Thank you. Councilor Beer.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, everybody, for your comments. Council, thank you, Councilor Furman and Nystrom, for bringing this issue forward. It gives me a little bit of Groundhog's Day deja vu from the time when our residential growth limits passed years ago, because we had this huge law that all the citizens, sent us, and then we had to break it into all sorts of different pieces and figure out which day we were going to do what. And it was a real painful year of a lot of different conversations and figuring out how to implement it, because of course the way it was written had a lot of vague language in it, and so we had to determine what that language meant, when people said things. So anyway, just giving me a little bit of flashbacks, but I will say I think it's a good idea breaking it up, so I appreciate Councilman Furman taking a look at that. I'm happy to go with the dates as proposed from Councilman Furman, but also I'm open to whatever you all think. I will just add, though, I agree. There has been a ton of conversation about this, over the past few years. However, I do think it's worth mentioning that there has been a ton in concept discussions about what the zoning code could look like and what form zoning could look like and all that kind of stuff. But it's also important to, I think, mention that we've had a red line version of this, in circulation since, with all the different updates and changes that the Planning Commission's made since July. So there really hasn't been a whole lot of time for everyone to digest the specific language and then start looking at how it might apply to them and looking at the map and all that sort of stuff. And to Councilwoman Nystrom's point, the map is pretty small. It's a little hard to read, and that's one of the reasons we're looking at getting some larger print versions so people can take a look at what this law could look like for them. So I think it's most important that we just do this right, take our time, and make sure that people understand. You're never going to have enough public engagement, but you can, we'll never get there to say that we finally have it fully engaged, but we should do as best we can and do as much as we can and make sure that the information that's out in the community is clear. So I'm willing to just make sure it's done right and take however long that might take. So I wouldn't personally set any specific deadlines or expectations, but I think we should start, taking some cracks at trying to get pieces of this done and done right. So that's my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Nystrom and then Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. I just want to take a step back here because, again, there has been a request sent to city staff, especially around the maps, and contingent on when they would be able to make some of the responses available to questions that were asked as well as the maps. I think that's very important. I mean, that is basically in all the roundtables and the ward meetings we've had, that is what people have gotten stuck on because they can't look at the map and really understand, like they can't even see their streets in some cases. And Councillor Cruz has broken things down in terms of here's the zoning code, this is what it means, this is what can be built in each type of lot. Those types of breakouts are very helpful to people. I think he's getting those validated. So as soon as, staff says, yes, that's correct, and we get that out on Lakewood together, that will close the gap on some things. But, this is a massive, massive change. We're rezoning the entire city. We're changing all the zoning codes. There are other things within that map that I can't ascertain why it is the color it is, what decisions were made. And I think those are important things to follow up because those are things that citizens are asking about as well. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And Councillor Lowe, once again, you speak faster than I can even think. I'd hate to see you on caffeine, but the fact of the matter is the zoning updates themselves were posted in February. And we've been trying to do everything we can to socialize that and make people aware of it. But there has been, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, but we have to remember this is impacting the entire city, all of the citizens involved. And as I said previously, I'm very concerned that if we move forward ahead of potentially what Councillor Furman has proposed and we don't have the supporting materials available, that we're not listening to people. And that, I think, is, our constituents and the people in the city are the number one responsibility we have as far as this goes. And I think we should just bear that in mind. I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to spend the next 8 months talking about this. I understand all the dynamics, but this is clear feedback that's been received from people, and I think we need to respect that.
Councillor Lowe.
I agree much more than I disagree with that, Councillor Nystrom. So I think it's fair to I think the breaking apart strategy is fair. I think that part of what council seems to be zeroing in on here is whether we start second readings in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks. So I just want to name again, the trade-off is speed versus if we don't start second reading until 4 weeks, we are going to be in a situation where either we cannot have a third reading on the map, which I'm imagining some folks might like, or if we do have a third reading on the map, it is going to have to be at a special meeting called 1 week after second reading. or it has to be pushed past the election, which for all the reasons that have been articulated, I think is not a good idea. So governing, sometimes you have two not completely perfect options. I think given that trade-off, I would advocate for starting the process with the relatively less controversial sort of round one that Councilor Cruz named, which maybe brings one important question to ask staff here, to the extent staff can answer it, and it's okay if they can't. I mean, if we set up the timeline we're arguing for with second reading starting in 2 weeks, that would bring us to the map, if I'm doing my math right, on second reading on Monday, October 13th. So that's a chunk of time to get the GIS thing done. So I guess my question for staff is, in terms of like having a more user-friendly interface for the map, is it feasible that can be made available before October 13th?
The maps will be posted tomorrow. We will also have large format maps for city council, so tomorrow.
Great, okay. So that seems like reassuring in terms of having it out there in the world for quite a while, and the map itself not being on second reading until October 13th if we do this thing. While we're talking about material, there was one other question that was raised for all of council that I just wanted to ask about. Someone raised whether we could have a sort of a very easy to read table of contents that was just posted that sort of, maybe it already is, but someone suggested that it was not. And so I'm wondering, maybe it already has been in the last few days, but I wonder if we could get a table of contents that just sort of is a road map of a different kind to help people find the different sections.
This is a little outside of the scope of the conversation.
Fine. Well, I only raise it because it gets to this question of like getting people materials, but fair enough. So just one other question, which I'm going to direct to Ms. Stanek. I have one other like legal process question on all of this. If we go for this staggered strategy, we are going to start to pass ordinances on second reading and potentially third reading, and they will then go into effect. And some of those ordinances might be in effect before the map is actually changed. So I guess my question is, the way our charter is set up, obviously, like the effective date for ordinances is 30 days after passage. For map, it's 45 days after passage. Can we do that? Because have the ordinances go into effect 30 days after passage, but just add some language that basically says like, although the ordinance is in effect, the actual like these changes do not actually like, the requirements do not start to apply until the map is updated. Can we add language? Do you see what I mean? Just so that we don't have like a weird timing discontinuity problem where some of the ordinances start to go into law before the map is updated.
Council can certainly, when the second hearing or public hearing arises, make a motion to have, certain articles take effect on specific dates. The way it's set up now is these would be staggered ordinances. So there is a world where there would be certain articles, say the first batch that was proposed, Articles 6 through 14. If those passed, let's say at second reading, went into effect, there was a 30-day period and then went into effect. If there was no amendments made, those would take effect. Obviously, we do need this code to be administered harmoniously. So, we would need to have the other sections take effect as well. But there is a world where some would be taking effect before the latter ordinances, like Article 3, the zoning map.
But I guess in your opinion, Ms. Danek, as someone as our lawyer who's spent a lot of time on this, is there a relatively easy, without creating a new sort of can of worms, is there going to be an easy way that council can just add like a 1 or 2 line text amendment to each of the text codes, basically saying this isn't going to apply until the map is updated?
Yes, you can do that. You can pick a specific date. The city staff can also propose language, but council can also make that motion or add that to each ordinance.
Okay.
It is possible. The short answer is yes, it is possible.
Okay, but without changing the effective, like the effective date would still apply to like 30 days, but then like the actual requirements would apply once the map has been, there's a way to sort of separate those two things out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Nystrom?
I just have a quick map question. So there were 3 maps requested. So I understand.
Councilor Nystrom, I'm sorry, this is outside of the scope of the scheduling conversation.
Well, we're trying to schedule based on having a map published, right?
Okay.
And there really was a request for 3 maps. One, the RTD overlay. The other one was to enlarge the current map so we can see that, and then a comparative map with current zoning versus proposed zoning. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of we're talking about a map here in this conversation, but there's really 3, and I think they're necessary for people to understand what, to be able to view this and really understand it. And in addition to that, I've dug into the RTD map quite a bit, and we've gotten emails, and some people spoke up that the RTD map is not accurate. So we're talking about changing density based on public transportation, which may or may not exist. So
The map I was speaking to was your initial request for the enlarged map and quadrant map.
okay, I think I submitted the other 2 at the same time, did I not?
So I don't know the status of those ones. The one I was speaking to was the enlarged map.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's the last hand that I have up. Just taking a little bit of a straw poll, it seems like council's desire might be shifting to August 25th as the start date. Did I pick that up? I don't think I didn't get you 3. Were you guys 25th, 8th? Neither?
Point of order, it's I think just up to Councilor Furman to decide yes or no, unless we do like an additional
But we
amendment.
haven't
to the
asked him
amendment.
yet. I'm trying to understand if we need to ask him, if we need to modify the amendment he's bringing forward. Okay, it's up to you to count.
I will say I kept a count of the people who seemed strongly one way or the other. However, by head nods, it feels like it has changed. It is split pretty much down the middle. I mean, for me, the most critical thing is where the map and the Article 3 fall. And giving people time for those, I think, is the biggest piece. So I would accept a change if people want the date. So, sorry, I'm hedging a little.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I think there's clear consensus that the map is like the piece when we look at the different breakouts. And understanding that this would then move us up to October 13th for the second reading. October 27th could be our third reading. And in a world where we need another one, now we know that November 3rd is there. I do wonder about the original timeline when November 3rd would have been the third reading, that if there were substantive changes, does that give staff ample time? And to the point about circulating and socializing, 1 week between October 27th and November 3rd, if we were on the dates as they currently exist, make that really tough. And I think we know some of the criticism we'll hear. So to me, moving up to the dates that Councilor Lowe proposed allows us to elongate the part of the process that we want to be most intentional on with the map piece.
Yeah, I can accept the amended dates.
Okay, so we need to remove our second. Ken Cruz?
Removed.
Okay. All right, will you restate?
Point of order, I'm not sure, but I believe that if it's considered friendly and it's adjusted, you don't actually have to do the process again. That's why Councilor Furman just agreeing why it does it.
I think on this one, I'd rather it be as clean as possible.
Great.
Please, yes, let's please reread it with all of the dates beginning on August 25th, please.
All right, so I move to amend ordinance O 2025-27, introduced on the first reading, to be separated into 4 ordinances as follows. One ordinance for updates to Articles 6 to 14 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearing set for August 25th, 2025. A second ordinance for updates to Articles 1, 2, 4, and 5 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearing set for September 8th, 2025. A third ordinance for updates to Article 3 of the zoning code to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearing set for September 22nd, 2025. And a fourth ordinance for updates to the zoning map to be published in the Denver Post as amended by this motion, with public hearing set for October 13th, 2025. and all ordinances as introduced on the first reading to be published in the Denver Post with public hearings set for the dates stated in the motion.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Councilor Isabel Cruz, hand up. Nope. Okay. All right, no hands up. With that, that signals to me that we're ready for a vote. So go ahead, please cast your vote if you would like to break it up as amended, proposed by Councilor Furman. And that passes 10 yeses and 1 no, the no being Councilor Nystrom. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will now move on to item 9A. Will the clerk please read 9A into the record?
Public hearing and second reading for item 9A, O 2025-25, declaring the intent of the City of Lakewood to acquire interest in property for public purposes for the construction of pedestrian drainage and traffic signal facilities along the south side of 20th Avenue from Van Street to Reed Street, and authorizing negotiations with property owners, acceptance of conveyance instruments, and condemnation of real property interests, subject to further council approval.
Thank you, and I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this item up here. Would anybody like to speak on 9A? Okay, with that, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. We do not have a presentation on this item. May I please have a motion?
Mayor, I move for the adoption of ordinance O-2025-25 on second and final reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no hands, go ahead and please cast your vote. That passes 11 yeses and 0 noes. Will the clerk please read 9B into the record?
Second reading and public hearing for item 9B, O 2025-26, declaring the intent of the City of Lakewood to acquire interest in property for public purposes for the construction of a storm drainage system, of a storm drain system on West 3rd Avenue, east of Depew Street, authorizing negotiations with property owners, acceptance of conveyance instruments, and condemnation of real property interests, subject to further council approval.
All right, thank you. And again, this is another item I do not have anyone signed up here to speak for. Would anyone like to speak to agenda item 9B? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on item 9B. May I please have a motion?
Mayor, I move for the adoption of ordinance O-2025-26 on second and final reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead. Please cast your votes. All right, that passes 11 yeses and 0 noes. All right, thank you very much. We are now heading into the second portion of our general public comment. And for that, what time are we? 8:42. I don't think we need to worry so much about the lining up, so we don't need to worry about that. But I'll go ahead and get everybody an idea that who's on deck so you know. First up to speak, I have Pasha Ripley, then Nicholas Munden, and then Alexi Fernandez. Pasha Ripley?
Yes, I'm coming, sorry.
Okay.
I'm disabled, so.
And if you'll give us your name and address or name and ward, and we'll get your clock started for 3.
My name is Pasha Ripley. I live in Longmont, but I work here in Lakewood. So, yeah. And I'm pretty nervous, so I'm going to refer to my notes quite a bit. And I apologize for that. Well, not.
It happens.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Pasha Ripley. In the interest of full disclosure, I am the executive director of the Parasol Patrol. We're a nonprofit group that shields children and other marginalized youth from protesters. But today I'm here speaking on behalf of myself. My daughter in love, my foster daughter, Savannah, was a close friend with Jax from their teen years at Rainbow Alley into adulthood. They met at Rainbow Alley and stayed close, and Jax even flew out to visit and work on art projects and other things with Jax. Jax was creative, kind, and deeply loved. And my heart goes out to Jax's mother. I'm sure we all understand that no one could understand her grief unless we've been through it. Jax was a trans woman who faced hate, discrimination, and like far too many, may have paid the ultimate price. The press and law enforcement have both dead-named and misgendered her, denying her dignity even in death. Statistics on anti-trans violence are difficult to track. Many cases are misreported or never reported at all, but according to the most recent data from 2023, transgender people are 4 times more likely to experience violent assault than cisgender people. At least 32 trans and gender expansive people were murdered in 2023 that they know of. Most of these people were Black trans women, and the numbers are almost certainly higher. It should never matter if someone is from a marginalized group, whether they've used drugs, no matter their socioeconomic status, no matter if they were a sex worker, their education, the zip code, or who they love. No matter the color of their skin, or whether they're trans, cisgendered, or anyone who faces discrimination. Every person deserves dignity, respect, and a full, transparent investigation when their life is taken. When law enforcement fails to investigate thoroughly, when city leadership fails to demand answers, when a city doesn't provide firm prevention, including genuine effort to send a clear message, some lives are worth the same as others. When the message is some lives are worth less than others, that message is dangerous. That message is wrong. Jax deserved better. The community deserves better. I'm asking you publicly to hold both the police and yourselves to the standard of justice you claim to stand for.
Ms. Ripley, your time is expired.
May I finish one sentence, please?
One sentence.
Because until there is justice for Jax, there is justice for none of us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Nicholas Mundlin?
Good evening, City Council. Tonight, I stand before you not as a victim, but as a survivor, someone who knows the sting of injustice at the hands of the very system meant to deliver justice. I am outraged, angered, and appalled by the continuous mistreatment of our community members. And when I say community, I mean everyone, from the homeless individual fighting for their lives on our streets to those who have tragically died while incarcerated. I speak for the families who are and aren't here tonight, once again pleading to be heard to be seen as equals. Mr. Lowe, I want to specifically address your statements. I strongly disagree. Oversight is not a hindrance. It is essential for transparency, rebuilding community trust, and fostering healing. Regardless of where an investigation may be, your current approach repeatedly traumatizes these families by forcing them to relive their pain here. The only reason the public even knows about this complaint is because these families love so loudly. I ask you, how many more lives must be lost before you realize that the general public has been deeply dissatisfied with Lakewood Police and Jefferson County Sheriff's Department for far too long? Do you see the names on my shirt? These are my family. These are my friends. Almost all of them are from Lakewood. They died from addiction, from gang violence, from suicide and other substance-related causes. And now I add William DeBoer to this list, who died from an ulcer in his throat while in custody at Jefferson County Jail. An ulcer, not an overdose. These continued injustices will not be tolerated. I urge the City Council to reflect on the 14th Amendment and ask yourselves honestly, is there truly equal protection under the law in Lakewood? Is Lakewood Police and the city suggesting they are above state laws regarding transparency and public access? House Bill 11119 suggests significantly expanded access to internal affairs investigations, while Senate Bill 2017 mandates law enforcement agencies to report detailed information related to misconduct. Also mandates law enforcement to report detailed information about officer interactions, misuse of force, and misconduct, with the goal of creating a searchable public database by July 1st, 2023. Lakewood Police Department, you are late. If I was 2 years late to my job, I wouldn't have one. We demand a transparent and accessible internal affairs complaint dashboard for Lakewood. This is a crucial first step towards accountability and ensuring no more lives are lost due to systemic failures. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexi Fernandez. Then we have Chris Cook and then Kyle Kingston.
Mayor, members of the council, fellow citizens of Lakewood, my name is Alexi Fernandez, and I'm a humble resident of Ward 2. I rise this evening not in anger, but in solemn duties to the principles upon which good government must rest. I'm here tonight to raise a procedural and constitutional concern regarding the recent no campaigning rule during public comments. To be clear, I fully support civility, order, and fairness in these meetings, but I must respectfully point out that the mayor does not have unilateral authority to create new content-based restrictions on public speech, including what is or is not considered campaigning. Let it be understood that liberty is not born in silence, nor preserved by the conveniences of those in power. It thrives where the people may speak, not just when it is comfortable, but when it is most inconvenient to power. Lakewood has adopted the Roberts Rules of Orders as its procedural compass, and under those rules and our own adopted bylaws, the mayor may only adjust procedures within existing framework. Any change that limits the content of public speech must be codified by ordinance or resolution and approved by a majority vote of the council. No such vote has taken place. The restriction, therefore, is not merely improper, it is a quiet trespass upon the people's right to petition their government. Let us remember that political speech in the form of self-government is not only protected by the Constitution, but it is sacred in purpose. For if free speech may be carteled by the lone judgment of a single officer, then our government is no longer of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is for that reason I have decided to run to represent Ward 2. I do not seek office for title, but for principle. I believe government must serve, not rule, that all public comment sections should be heard first, not last, that our meetings should be open, our rules clear, and our leaders accountable. This election should be about ideas, not personalities or parties. We should be getting big money out of politics. The people deserve more. So I ask this council, not in defiance, but in civic fellowship, to rescind this unjust rule and to let the people speak freely and fully. I'm done speaking, but will any of you have the moral courage to make a simple point of order to allow us to hear from the other candidates tonight? I still have 30 seconds. No one's gonna make a point of order. No one's gonna give us back our right to hear. I thought one of you was in the ACLU.
Thank you. Chris Cook, Kyle Kingston, and then Brother Ken Unity.
Hi, my name is Chris Cook, and I'm a resident of Adams County and a proud father of a wonderful child who happens to be trans. I'm here again to speak out about what happened to Jax and the misjustice that Lakewood has committed in conducting her investigation. The police have slow-pedaled this investigation into a long-standing crawl. They dead-named Jax when announcing her death. It took more than a week to convince investigators to accept Jax's laptop as evidence. The chief of police, Philip Smith, stood here 4 weeks ago in this very chamber saying that his department would do better. He then left the meeting without engaging the community and hearing from Jax's supporters. 2 weeks later, he came back and he seemed proud that he had just watched an 11-minute video on, in his own words, the transgenders. Later, just outside these chambers, he walked out and briefly engaged with Jax's supporters for about 2 minutes before running away from them again. Meanwhile, the Jefferson County coroner, Dr. Annette Cannon, reportedly treated Jax's grieving mother like a belittled 10-year-old being reprimanded by a total stranger. The release of Jax's body was also a confusing mess, and Jax's own mother reportedly didn't know when or if she'd call the coroner to find out when the autopsy was completed. Because of this, when 500 people showed up for a memorial to mourn Jax's passing, she was still with the coroner. Then last week, 60 days after the investigation started, the coroner's report was released and a dead named Jax throughout the entire report. After all this, I must ask, is the city of Lakewood and Jefferson County actively trolling the trans community? After the past 60 days of Jax's supporters and activists reaching out, has the city chosen not to learn anything from this experience, or is this all blatant and willful transphobia? Plato once said, "Silence gives consent." I am asking all of you, don't be complicit to this with your silence and to seek out justice for Jax. Please do this for Jax, whose untimely death has brought up so many unanswered questions. Please do this for Jax's mother, who has not received an ounce of kindness from the Lakewood police or the Jefferson County coroner. Please do this for all of Jax's loved ones and supporters who have been fighting every single day just so that their voices can be heard. Please do this to rebuild trust with the Lakewood transgender community so that maybe one day they will no longer have to fear going to the police for help. After more than 60 days of watching this travesty of an investigation play out, please create an independent oversight committee to monitor what is happening. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Kyle Kingston.
My name is Kyle Kingston. Jax Graton, whose death remains unsolved, was my friend, so I cannot be objective. My anger at what happened to her is going to be present today. But I am also a resident of the real world, so I know that we may never get answers about what happened to her. It is nice to think that everybody matters, but I know the truth is uglier. Jax matters to me. Jax matters to her family and to her friends and to everyone who once knew her. But I'm almost positive that Jax doesn't matter to you. The government of Lakewood and its law enforcement has made that abundantly clear in its callous, dismissive attitude to Jax's family. Shame on every last one of you for allowing her case to grow cold, for putting the blue wall of silence above my friend. Am I cynical in thinking that if Jax were a quote-unquote normal Christian girl, that if she had been some politician's granddaughter, that the investigation into her disappearance and death would be further along than it currently is? Prove me wrong. Shut me up and make Jax a priority by doing the right thing and appointing independent oversight. We deserve answers, and Jax Creton deserves justice.
Thank you. Brother Ken Unity, and then CL Blackwood.
Good evening, council members. My name is Brother Ken Unity Keeper, and many of you know me now, if not for the pink cowboy hat, and likely the work that I do here in the community. I minister to uplift and standing alongside members of the LGBTQ community, our unhoused neighbors, and other members of the community who are often left unheard. In my ministry, I show up as a queer preacher who is dedicated to making sure every person knows they are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that they have someone willing to fight for their dignity. But I think it's also important to invite you all to get to know me beyond the collar and my community work. My name is Alexander Abreu. In my secular life, I am a contracted employee of the state of Colorado working in education savings. I manage a team of 250 plus employees. Manage a large team who dedicate their lives to serving those who live and save for college and send their children to the next step of their life here in this state, here in this city, actually in 40 plus states. The work that we do is great, and we are here. My life has very, very many facets. I'm a public servant and advocate. I'm a trans man. I'm deeply rooted member of the greater Denver area. I live here, I work here. I care deeply about the safety and trust in the systems that are meant to serve us all. I want to tell you why it matters who sits on this oversight board, especially when that board exists to hold police accountable. Having a current or former member of the police department on such a board creates a clear conflict of that interest. Oversight means independent review, not internal review. When marginalized communities, including transgender people, people of color, immigrants, and those experiencing homelessness already face documented disparities in how they are treated by law enforcement, the presence of law enforcement personnel in oversight roles erodes public trust before the board even begins its work. Transgender individuals like myself and Jax report high rates of being dead named in official reports, which I don't know if I need to repeat, but we've already seen here more than once. Having their credibility questioned or having their safety concerns minimalized as well. These aren't abstract statistics, they are lived realities. An oversight board must be free from even the appearance of bias if it is to earn the confidence of the very people it is meant to protect. Finally, I want to bring this back to Jax Creton. Jax was more than a name in the news story. She was a bright, giving, and courageous woman who poured love into the community. There's some part in reality that I say this. I don't know if you are here for her. I don't know if you are here for your community. And if you can't stand on the right side of history, then I know you are not here for your community and you should not be sitting in those seats. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is CL Blackwood. I live in Ward 2. Others' experiences with Lakewood PD are real. I will not dismiss them, but I will say my personal experiences with them have been very good. I've seen them handle incredibly difficult situations with compassion and grace. However, their actions in Jax's case don't meet those standards. Their refusal to put appropriate resources towards finding her, their mishandling and misreporting of evidence, and other missteps, honestly, they puzzle me. They don't add up. Additionally, both the police chief and coroner have shown a startling lack of professionalism, especially in how they've treated Jax's mother. Because of that unprofessionalism, because of the things that don't add up, and even because I want Lakewood PD to be consistently as good for everyone in my community As my personal experiences with them have been, I ask that you institute independent oversight. I cede the rest of my time to the next person.
Thank you. We have then Krista Henrietta and then Alicia Swanton. And if anybody is in chambers that would like to speak that has not signed up yet, we do still. Mr. Rob, is the sheet with you?
It's about to be.
Okay, okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
In the middle. So
Hi.
if anybody would still like to speak up. Sorry, go ahead.
You're okay. Hi, my name is Krista Henrietta. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I came here to support Friends and Jax and Justice for Jax. After the last city council meeting, I was intrigued by all of you and the sheriffs. So I looked up your website and I went searching. And I found this statement straight from your website. It says, the men and women of the Lakewood Police Department will protect and serve with integrity, intelligence, and initiative. Working with our community, we will bring to justice those who commit crime and cause disorder in our city. Engage in crime prevention and public education activities. Engage in crime interdiction and suppression by various means with emphasis on patrol services. Implement a philosophy of community-oriented problem solving, which citizens are equal partners in the crime prevention effort. There's other parts here that I will just skim through because I only have a few minutes. They said, from our mission flows a set of values that lay the framework for the ethical standards applied to policing in the city of Lakewood. We will provide a level of service that exceeds the expectations of citizens, other agencies, and our coworkers. We reject complacency and are dedicated to continually pursuing the highest levels of knowledge, skill, and expertise. We will endeavor to make the right decision for the right reasons and ensure that our actions match our words. We will fight crime while winning trust without bias, brutality, or corruption. We are proud of our profession and are dedicated and committed to our career as peacekeepers and enforcers of the law. We must have the courage to stand up for what we believe is right, admit when we are wrong, and accept the consequences for our actions. In both our personal and professional lives, we will never violate the laws we have been entrusted to enforce upon others. Then under the Code of Ethics, I will read just a small section. It says, as a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights for all to liberty, equality, and justice. Down below it says, non-sworn employee code of ethics. I acknowledge respect for human life, recognizing diversity among the members of this community and department I serve. I will exhibit honesty and integrity through ethical behavior. I will be obedient to the laws of the city, the state, and the United States of America. I will not, in the performance of my duty, work for personal advantage or profit. I will at all times recognize that I am a public servant and that ultimately I am responsible to the public. I will give the most efficient, impartial, and courteous service of which I am capable of at all times. This is straight from your website, and I don't know that, I think it's important that we realize that we take oaths every day as a parent. We take oaths to our children. As citizens, we have oaths and code of conduct and laws that keep us all working together in unity. And I
Your
think
time has expired,
I think
Ms. Henrietta.
right now that's what we need is unity. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Alicia Swanton up next, and then I believe Alexis Hoffling, and then Ian Hawthorne.
Hi, I'm Alicia Swanton. I live in Jefferson County. I have no idea what ward. I have MS, so that doesn't make any sense to me. I came up here last time and I asked you for empathy and compassion. I'm once again asking that of you. And I want you to look at the people that are next to you. And I want you to think about this. What would you do if they just weren't sitting there and no one reported them missing for 9 days, then what would you do to find them? And what would you do if you were us standing here now, pleading with you to have compassion and empathy? Would you have that for them? And if you're saying yes, you would undoubtedly have that for them, then please have that for all of them. I can't tell you what it's like to look through alleyways and ditches hoping you're gonna find something. A phone, a piece of clothes, a purse, and you found nothing. We still don't know where the phone is. We still don't know where the purses are. On the Rosary, when we did that, let me tell you what happened, because I was outside getting a hug from someone when a car drove by and literally screamed out of the window, "I hope you all burn to death in there." Why? Because we were at a Rosary for a transgender person. Can you tell what I am by looking at me? No. Can I tell what any of you are by looking at you? No. But I can tell you that my PTSD jumped backwards, screaming, "What the?" And just shaking, going, I didn't hear that. No way. Why would someone drive by a church and scream that? That's why they need a community. They need people that look at science, people that look at the microbes and everything else, to look at what's going on right now and secure that they have justice for Jax, because you would want it with anybody else that you know or you care about. And that's what this is. That's exactly what this is please, just help them so that they know that they're getting the right stuff. Because why does People magazine know things that the mom doesn't know? That's not following protocol, is it? That's not following what should happen. They shouldn't be opening up a magazine and figuring things out. The police should know. And the only other person that should maybe know besides the police are the mother. And that's not happening in this case. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Alexis Hoffling.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Alexis Hoffkling. I'm speaking here today as a family doctor who cares for many trans people, and as a trans person myself. You've heard a lot of comments about details of what independent oversight looks like and why it matters in this case. I actually want to take a minute and zoom out and put this conversation a little bit in perspective. So we don't know. I don't know. I don't think anyone in this room really knows what happened to Jax. It may have been an act of targeted violence. It may not have. Whatever it was awful. But that is not the end of the harm, right? Because when we live in a context where targeted violence towards our community does exist, every act of violence, targeted or not, intentional or not, resonates and creates these ripples of further harm and fear and trauma and a feeling of unsafety that affects all of us, whether we live down the block or 1,000 miles away. And when legitimately or not, truly or not, there is an appearance of obfuscation or mismanagement into an investigation, it creates a sense of profound distrust. And more scarily to me, when we look at the context right now in our world, in our country, of federal normalization of persecution and hatred towards trans people and delegitimizing our lives and our existence, anything that creates, fairly or not, an establishment of a vibe of obfuscation sets up a tone of impunity and creates a real risk of harm for future cases. Someone looks at this and says, well, gosh, if someone did murder there, they're getting away. I'm going to be less inhibited in the future. So yes, we need to be getting independent oversight because we care about Jax and our community cares and her family cares and she deserves it, but also because if we don't nip a feeling of growing impunity in the bud, then things get worse. And trans people are the canary in the coal mine, and we are very often the first targets, but we are never the last. And this is one of the places where the solidity of democracy and the social contract can erode. And this is one of those pebbles that it gets knocked out and then more erosion happens and things get worse. So please think about the whole context of these indirect effects of how well we stand up for democracy and justice here, and not just the nuances of this particular case in isolation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Hawthorne? And then Ryan Flanagan, and Mr. Robb, that's the last name I have up here.
Hi, my name is Ian Hawthorne. I knew Jax for almost 10 years. In that time, I got to see Jax overcome a lot. Jax and I were very vulnerable with each other, and because of that, I got to experience firsthand that Jax's life was challenging in ways that I can't even understand, just because of who she was. We live in a system that rewards people who do not acknowledge the legitimacy of the struggles people like Jax face every day. Transgender people face disproportionate levels of discrimination within the criminal justice system, and because of that, we need an independent oversight committee for Jax to receive the justice she didn't get in life, and to build a bridge of trust with the LGBTQ community. I cede the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you. Ryan Flanagan.
Hello. My name is Ryan Flanagan. I am from Denver, zip code 80202, and I support Independent Oversight Committee for Jax, and here's a poem I wrote for my friend. Jax, they found your body yesterday, that body with top surgery, that body with hormone therapy, that body that was finally yours, that body that now belongs to no one. Jax, I don't understand how you could have been so brave. I have a hard time being myself in a world that largely accepts me for who I am. Jax, when you told me about those men threatening you, one story among many, I gave you a look and you said, I don't like pity. Jax, you taught me so much of what it means to be brave. That tears are okay, but despair isn't. Jax, they found your body yesterday, but I still haven't been able to cry. Jax Graton, I am with you in this lost land where we both enameled reality with the real drug twilight of the soul. I am with you in this lost land where we discard our sense of time, journey, and the in-between. I am with you in this lost land where we truly have no sight beyond grim eternity. I am with you in this lost land where we grow beyond the boundaries of flesh. I am with you in this lost land where we grow beyond the boundaries of hate. I am with you in this lost land where we break bread with our toothless captors. I am with you in this lost land where the pale reflection of every cracked mirror has been shattered and reformed into mosaic proverbs to the masses of full-hearted parishioners waiting for your holy return, the second coming of our trans savior, the rising, the rebirth, the renewal of faith in the best of us. I am with you in this lost land where the spirit of me melds into the spirit of you, melds into the spirit of all. Jax, I read that poem at an open mic, and someone there knew you because everywhere I go, someone knows you. They said speaking to you was like their therapy, and that it's getting so bad for so many. And then we cried. The first time I cried for you was in the arms of a stranger, but because of you in that moment, we weren't strangers at all. Jax, we are with you. In a future more just than our past or present, we are with you where you have become love incarnate. We are with you where you were always more than the limits of these minuscule minds. We are with you where you were always more than your gender. We are with you where you have become, where your love is our all love. We are with you We are with you. We are with you, and you are with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tyler Good, then Andrew Song. And last, Maya Blasingme. Excuse me.
Hello, I haven't used the name Tyler in anything official for a long time, except I've been dealing with the federal government a lot recently, and I've had to use a name that I don't use often. So I wrote it on a form, which is an experience that a lot of people seem to be having here. I'm a former member of former resident of Ward 3, but I was not able to continue my life there, and I moved to Aurora. And I'm going to read something by somebody who could not be here. Good evening. My name is Julia Enzi, and I'm a Loveland constituent in area code 80538. I go by Tink Insi. First, I want to apologize for not being able to be here in person tonight, and I truly thank you for taking the time to hear me. I'm speaking tonight because I still believe it is essential that the city do the right thing to establish the Oversight Committee in the case of Jack Scratton. Accountability and transparency are not just ideals, they are responsibilities. For my public comment, I will speak to you through my art to show you who Jax was to me. They say, the loud ones leave echoes. If that's true, then the wind still speaks your name. In the whip-cracked syllables, Jax Grattan. You weren't a whisper, you were a riot. With glitter in your fists and a battle cry wrapped in laughter. She didn't walk into rooms, she entered. Like a goddamned main character who knew the plot was hers to bend. Shoes scuffed floors, shattered ceilings. She didn't just raise the roof, she replaced it. With stars she dared us to reach. She fought for her joy like it owed her money, wore her weird like armor, loved like a storm, and when the world told her to be quiet, she turned up the volume and dared it to fight her. She were here, with her messy grace, and rage that sang like a hymn to the unheard, and now we carry her name like a drumbeat under our tongues, Grattan like gravel in our grief, rough, real, unapologetically still speaking. She didn't fade. She was taken, but even now she won't go quietly. We are the chorus to her unfinished verse. We are the footsteps on the search path. We are the still looking, the don't forget her, the say her name until silence breaks and justice screams back. Jax Grattan, not gone, just loud in a different way, and we will not back down until we have justice. Long live Jax Grattan. Do the right thing, Lakewood. Thank you. That is the end of Tink's statement, and I would just like to add at the end that oversight has to be trusted to be valuable at all. If we can't trust it, then what good is it to us? If we can't look it in the eye and say that I believe that this was done right and correct and that I trust the people who did it to do it professionally, that means in accordance with their spoken vows, profession, spoken vows, please make them live up to their vows. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rob, our next speaker.
Yep, Andrew Song, and then Maya.
Hello. I did not have the honor of meeting Jax in person or knowing her personally. But as one of her trans brothers, I had to come and speak on her behalf and on the behalf of all trans people and myself. I would like to comment on the powerful sense of community that I have found among all LGBTQIA+ people, all queer folks, that I've had the pleasure of meeting. And I can't tell you how much that means to someone like me who does not have the support of their family members, any of them. So in honor of Jax and the life that she so loudly lived, full of love, we ask you to please do the right thing. Do not allow conflict of interest or bias.
And we, as respectfully as possible, genuinely, demand an independent oversight so that maybe we can trust the police in the future. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last, I have Maya.
Hello, how are you? My name is Maya Blassingame. Have been a resident of Lakewood in the past, 10th and Wadsworth down there for many years. But I currently live in Denver. You might recognize me from different actions, and I represent my community as a leader. I also represent people, just a person as well. I mean, you're all people here on this board here I'm looking at. I can imagine if it was your child, you'd be doing the same thing that we're trying to do, right? All we're asking for is oversight. When the community says we need something, your job is to listen and to do the right thing, right? You would think that would be it. But sometimes doing the right thing is doing it against people you might know, people you might be friends with, right? I can imagine you might have connections to the police department and people who are involved in this investigation. But we can't let that cloud us to doing what's right. You've been trusted by people in this room who live in your wards, and they're telling you, please do something. I didn't personally know Jax, but damn, I know her story. I know her mom who's hurting. And you know what's even worse when a parent is hurting? Because we really do look out for families in this community in Lakewood. That's what I know. To have people in the police department, the chief, treat this grieving mother so wrongly, losing her whole world. You know, when we know the right thing is to do oversight, we know the right thing is to get justice for somebody. I don't need to tell you for the 15th billionth time that when you dead name somebody who's transgender, and as a black trans woman, that's probably one of the worst things you can do. And when they pass, people in this room have told you, they're constantly being disrespected. How would you feel if that was your child? And maybe they got a couple letters wrong on a tombstone. You'd probably be really upset, huh? You go back there and get that fixed, get your money's worth. Well, why don't we give this community what they deserve, what they've elected you all to do? Why don't we just, I don't know, show our kids, our community, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, that even if your kid isn't transgender, maybe they might come out later on when they feel more comfortable, when they can see you make a stand. Maybe that neighbor you might have eventually one day might have a trans person in their life. Maybe your grandchild one day comes out as trans, and until it affects you and you have to worry about them coming back home alive, safe, sound, living in their bed, wishing them happy birthday, which is coming up pretty soon, that Jax's family can't do, that I can't do, that none of you people have had the opportunity to do. So I ask you to please do the right thing now and come out to the community events. You say you represent everybody. Come out to Transgender Day of Remembrance in November. It's a time when our community is sadly going to have to mourn another person, and many more people in this country. The city of Lakewood should do more, stand up for what's right. Colorado's a beacon of hope, and y'all have a damn job to do. Because if you don't, we're going to find you later. We're going to make sure that we elect people who will. So stand up for everybody in your community, not just those that you really relate to, the ones that look like you. Because I don't look like any of you in this room, unfortunately. But I'd hope you give me the grace as well if I ended up in an alley in your city. Because if that's your kid, I know you'd be out there trying to do something. And don't let no podcast beat you to it. Because unfortunately, that's how a lot of people in our community get justice.
Your time is expired.
I can tell that. But I'm going to take one more second here and say just thank you for your time and for allowing these people to come in here as much as they can to advocate. Because if you don't do something now, you're going to see us every time until you do. And that's a promise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collins.
Yeah.
Okay, you're up.
I just made it. The very first time I called into Lakewood City Council, was this 2020 or 2021, was to call for an independent oversight committee over the police. And at that time I had a meeting with Mayor Paul, and he kind of went over all the complications of trying to do that, and that you need probably a pretty sizable movement to make this happen. And I think we have a movement that can make it happen. So I hope you all consider what they're all saying. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comden. No more? Okay.
No more, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening for public comment, for sharing your perspectives, your concerns, your questions. If you want to stick around, what we're moving into right now is the period in our evening where city councilors have the opportunity to give out reports. And I would imagine that you'll hear some feedback from our counselors. This is now our opportunity to share with you. So thank you, everybody, still for being here. And with that, I will go ahead and we'll start ward reports with Ward 1.
Thank you. We had a ward meeting on Saturday. Had a member from COPERG come and discuss transit over the next 10 years. Great conversation, great dialogue about the zoning ordinance. Anything else, you can read my newsletter. There is information on the website. I do just want to take a moment to address the community directly. And again, thank you all for coming amidst all that you're navigating in your grief and to continue to advocate for this. I know that some of us have had conversations offline about that, and we are starting to put together a request for action by City Council. I don't know what the timing will be, but you saw there's a really dense timeline, but we want to make sure that this is a priority that's coming up. And so just a lot of gratitude to members of the community who've helped to inform that. You all have been really clear in the call to action tonight, and we just really appreciate that. The pressure matters, and hearing from you all and just knowing that there is shared advocacy here on the dais. And I know that this feels very stiff and formal, but we're all humans here, and this is a topic that impacts my household in a way that, as a mother, I can't even begin to describe how important this is. So I think that's it for me, and I'll just turn it over to my co-counselor.
Thank you. Yes, thank you all for coming, and it's hard to be up here and work within the parameters that we work within. But as the Mayor Pro Tem just said, some things are moving in that direction, and I fully support that as also a member of the LGBTQ community. So thank you for your work. And again, it's so amazing how slowly even local government works. And so we're not calloused. We're not turning a blind eye and just, it doesn't matter. It certainly does matter. And it's wonderful, the expressions. Wow, Ryan Flanagan's poem, it's like, wow, how can he remember all that? It was amazing. Thank you for all of the expressions that you gave. So I'll close with that. Thanks.
Ward 2.
Thank you all for those of you who are sticking it out with us this evening. It's not as late as it could be, but I know you would be here either way, like no matter what the hour was, and I definitely appreciate that. I will start. We also had a ward meeting on Saturday, and it is Harm Reduction Awareness Month. And so, what was that? And so we were able to actually have a Narcan training during our community meeting and ward meeting on Saturday, which was like really great. And it was fascinating and amazing to see the amount of community members that don't normally show up as sort of activists and you don't think of as always really values aligned in some of the harm reduction space. And I share this just because I think it's important to remember when things go well, who really showed up and cared and asked questions and took Narcan home, who wanted it, who are often also people who I know can sometimes show up feeling more fearful in that space. So it was neat because when there are solutions, it's more possible to be able to do something about stuff, which transitions me to just, I appreciate how intense it must be to be like filled with both grief and also personal fear and then like societal level fear, and then to try to show up with solutions. in a space that is stiff and hostile and like beige. And so making progress in a beige room is still a lot of what's necessary, and it's really hard, and I know emotionally like impossible feeling. And so I also want to say, I think Councilor Sinks was saying we're not calloused. We are listening, and we are working on some items, and I also want to say it's good that you're here. Holding us accountable until things move is necessary. And my day job, I get to be an activist, and here I have to hear from activists in order to like have the backup needed to be effective, right? Like that's what we all need on whatever topic it is, wherever we're aligned. It's easier when you know you have like friends and allies in spaces. And so, I don't know, we're probably all just like glaring at you and like trying not to make messed up faces. And I just want to be as human as possible, that like I don't think I'm handling this moment perfectly, but I know that there's a ton of alignment of values and heart and like legitimate shared distressed feelings with my colleagues. And that's not enough. So we expect to keep seeing you until you don't have to show up in this space because you've been given another space to show up, right? Thank you, but I do really find it important to keep it as calm, even when we're all in alignment in the chamber, so that if somebody does disagree with me, they are allowed to tell me so and not feel nervous. Just like if you were in a more hostile city council space, which many of them are, we would also want to be able to hear from you and keep you safe. So I know that that's like weird stickler things to be so dedicated to the bureaucracy, but that's how freedom of speech and democracy actually gets to happen. But thank you. Sorry, that was a little bit rambling. I've been either sick or traveling for the last couple of times that you all have been here, so I'm just taking a little bit of a point of privilege, and thank you to my colleagues for your forgiveness on that. I've been like weird and spooky on the big screen, or last time I was just like too sick and had to get off once we were done with voting. So I appreciate that I have not been able to actually just physically been in the space with you all as much, and so I wanted to take the moment to speak to you more directly than I maybe would otherwise if you had been hearing from me week to week in the same way that I would like to be. And thank you for being humans with us in the space that is hard to navigate for you all. And I recognize too that if we mess up, then what we're worried about as people with like actual voted upon technical power is that we are worried that we will be called out, that we will feel embarrassed or sad or nervous or anxious about our moments, and that what you are worried is that we will mess up and then more of you will die. And those stakes are not fair. So if we're getting things wrong, you being able to tell us that is important because the stakes are different for us. And I'm also a member of the LGBTQ community, but I'm not a trans person, and like those stakes are different. And so I also want to deeply apologize to the many, many emails that I have not responded to on this topic. It is every single day, which is amazing. Most of them are like so obviously filled with love, and it is amazing. And I have responded to not all of them, but eventually everyone will get responded to, truly. It will just take some time. I think that somebody used the metaphor about trying to build a bridge of trust today. And I want to just say that in a time when I cannot imagine the intensity of your feelings, especially those of you who were like personally friends with and personally loved Jax Creton. But I think that you all have been doing your best to try to show up in a way that is, yes, as activists, as people who are pushing and calling for better, but also as people who are willing to lay down bricks in that bridge of trust, and that's really impressive and really hard to do. And so thank you for that kind of leadership. It's amazing. I think lastly, I do just want to point out the density of the schedule. I think some of you were in the room, some of you weren't. We were talking about our zoning, which is one of the most important things that we'll do for affordable housing in my 4 years of tenure for sure. And then also our budget, which really has to be passed by the end of October for the city to continue to function, which doesn't mean that we aren't dealing with this. I say this actually specifically for the people who are following those things, that those schedules are updated. There's going to be posts about it. I know that my colleagues and I will try to make sure that everyone has access to when and how to show up for those items as they start to move. Basically every Monday for most of September and October, we'll have pretty packed, dense schedules. And so if you're interested in those things, just keep a lookout for the updates on when and how to show up on those items. And yeah, I think lastly, I was just going to apologize for not having been in person for the last couple. I try to be in the chambers as much as possible, as we all do, because it's better to be here in person to make the law. So thank you to the public and to my colleagues for your grace as I was traveling and then unexpectedly ill. So I'm catching up on things. If I've missed something from the public or from my colleagues that I needed to get back to you, please let me know, because it's not on purpose. I'm still digging out of the inbox, and I will pass it to my colleague.
Thank you. As always, you are hard to follow. But I did just want to start by circling back to our ward meeting. Thank you to everybody who was able to come, and thank you to Jeffco Public Health for joining us to talk about International Overdose Awareness Month. If Narcan is not something that you're carrying or something that you are familiar with, I would really encourage you to reach out to our local public health department or other resources in your community, since I know many communities are represented here. This is something that you can get for free, and this is something that can be the difference between somebody being here today or somebody not being here tomorrow, right? And so just really want to emphasize that there are so many ways to get resources, and that overdose is something that has touched my life, and I know it has touched many lives of people in this room. And so sometimes when we think about people who use drugs, we think about people who are outside of us, but we know that, like, I think they cited the stat that 80% of people over the age of 12 will use some substance in their life, right? This is the majority of people. And so I really appreciate that we are able to have that conversation and think about what safety looks like in our community. I also just wanted to nod briefly to our community members who came to speak about traffic calming as another leg of public safety in our community. I know that this is something that I've been continually getting complaints about as we rework our traffic calming ordinance since we lowered our speed limit. And so I think that is just something that I would like to continue for us to have conversations about, and hope we can make some real progress on as a council coming soon. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I think tonight is just such a perfect example of why, even though there is so much pain and so many of the statistics that folks cited regarding what violence looks like in the LGBT community, particularly related to our trans neighbors, why I'm so proud to be queer. The love, the pain, the emotion, everybody who spoke to us, whether you like us or you don't, you're welcome here. And I heard and got to see a piece of your soul in a way that I don't think is common in some of our chambers in council. And so I just really do want to say thank you to all of you for bringing what you brought and for what you've brought every time, because it really does make a difference. We are, as many of you said, all people up here, right? And so thank you for taking the time to be so thoughtful about how to touch our hearts in the same ways that Jax, whether you knew her or you didn't, has touched yours and now has touched all of ours. So really, I want to extend a deep thank you for showing up. And I hope that this is the last time that we have to make broad comments about what we're hoping to do. I think we're close to having a real proposal of something that we hope can bridge some of what we know. Some of what we know is important to move trust and accountability forward, and to, as was spoken to, really deliver on what we know the police and the police chief have said that they strive for, right, which is serving every community member. And so I look forward to having a discussion about an independent oversight committee in weeks to come. And I'm grateful to the Mayor Pro Tem for being really thoughtful and on working on this with me and so many of my counselors, and I look forward to conversations with other counselors to move something forward as well. So thank you.
Ward 3.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple Ward 3 logistical notes and announcements. First of all, Councilor Cruz and I will be doing our Ward 3 meeting tomorrow at the, let me pull up the details, at the New America School at Alameda and South Harlan. Thank you very much to Councilor Ken Cruz for reserving that, along with all the zoning roundtables that he's been reserving. That's 5 806 West Alameda Avenue, the New America School, 6 to 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday. There will be a presentation from the Ward 3 Planning Commissioner along with some other folks that sort of gives an overview of what's in the current zoning code draft. We're hopeful that that will be helpful and help demystify it, given that it is a 300-plus page document, and hopefully give people a better sense of some of the core things that are in that draft. I also just wanted to give a shout out to two upcoming important meetings that are going to happen at Emory Elementary, one on August 27th at 6 p.m. hosted by the Action Center, and a second a town hall on September 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. co-hosted by the Action Center and the City of Lakewood. For those who have been for folks who have been wanting to learn more about the Emory School Elementary plan moving forward, those will be two opportunities to learn more, ask questions, get the facts. Would encourage folks to come to those. I want to echo what Councilor Isabel Cruz just said. It was nice to get a couple folks from Ward 3 today talking about traffic calming and the importance of speed safety and of reducing speed on some of our arterial roads. It's something we've heard a lot about in Ward 3. So I really do hope there'll be opportunities for action there, and I do expect us to continue to hear from Ward 3 folks. I spoke at some length a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke a little bit too long, so I don't want to go on again at length. I want to make a couple of quick points. Number one, in underscoring the importance of the 3-minute rule, it's been called to my attention that some folks may have taken that as a discouragement to come and speak, or a sort of an admonishment that they, need to be more careful or something. It is very much on us to tell people when the 3 minutes are up. Like, no one should feel like they have to keep time. The mayor cues you to keep time. No one should have to feel that way. And in that spirit, I want to thank everyone for coming out and speaking tonight and 2 weeks ago and 2 weeks before that. One of the things, there's a lot of parts of this job I love. One thing that I hate is the dynamic of us up here, you down there. I hate it. I hate it so much, because particularly because on this issue, genuinely, and I know so many other folks on this dais, we are with you. Like, we want to see change, and we are working on change. It is the messiness of local government that, like, sometimes change requires outside pushing, and those of us who are inside government to be working inside government. And what I want to say to you is, like, we are working very hard inside government to bring about change. To the points that have been made, it is slow, it is frustrating slow. I am sorry. I know you folks don't want just words. You're not looking for words, you're looking for action. We are too. We are committed to action. As a number of councilors have already previewed, there is going to be an effort to bring a request for council action, and I'm looking forward to seeing that move forward. A number of folks in the community have called our attention to, among other reference points, the Citizen Oversight Board that the police have in Denver as a potentially imperfect but a useful model to look at. I think that is a useful model to look at. I think, frankly, what you're seeing up here tonight is some of us don't want to get out in front of the rest of our city and our police and, like, announcing a thing before we have a chance to do some more important internal stakeholding. That work really is important. Otherwise, different power centers, frankly, in government can get more dug in, and we don't want that. But we want to bring about change. And I as another member of this body who is LGBTQ and who did come out in high school, and it was very, very hard, I want to be very, very, very clear. I recognize that I'm a cisgender white man, and I do not have the lived experience of the transgender community. I don't want to suggest that I do. That experience is deeply unique, and I so appreciate you all coming and talking and sharing your experiences, the experiences of you and your loved ones and your neighbors and your kids, and the fear you feel. And I just want to say, as a member of the broader LGBTQ community, for whom that identity is really, really important for me, it is like a core part of my identity. I hear you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate, what time is it? It's 9:47 p.m. I appreciate you all staying here and staying to the end of a city council meeting for 4 hours. That is commitment. Thank you. We appreciate you. We want to make. We want to see action, and thank you for taking the time. And I'm not expecting folks to look happy until that action is delivered, and I get that, and I expect to see more of you, and I know we will see more of you, and we appreciate your activism, and we appreciate the change that you're working to bring about. I think that's all I have.
I want to start off with the zoning code. I want to thank my co-counselor, Paula Nystrom, as well as additional counselors who were part of the roundtables over the last 2 weeks. I also want to thank everyone from the community that showed up to be part of the process, to provide your concerns, your ideas, your solutions. We do have one more zoning code roundtable scheduled August 14th at 6 p.m. at the same location we're having our ward meeting at the New America School off of Alameda and Harlan. So this is a place for you to come again and be part of that process, share concerns, those ideas, and move forward. First and foremost, I want to say to everyone here that spoke, thank you for sharing your words and your lived experiences. Z, from your statement of let's build trust, that is something that I think every one of us on this dais wants to do and will do. I think, when it came down to Jose talking about the Latino community within the trans community, not even feeling safe to walk into these chambers is a big concern and something we need to move forward to do better on. When it came down to Kyle, a friend of Jack's, saying, prove me wrong, do the right thing. This is our opportunity to do that. We are, in the process of creating an LGBTQ plus advisory circle. Many of my co-counselors have shared interest in being part of this. The city has shared interest in making this something that is safe, but we want to start in community first. So if you know of coffee shops, businesses, any safe places where we can meet, listen to community, specifically within the trans community and the larger, please reach out to me and let me know as I start organizing this effort. This isn't, the one and all done solution, but it's a step forward, and it's a path to ensuring that all voices are heard and part of the process. So thank you. And thank you for being here.
Ward 4.
So we'll start with the ward meetings. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone who does come out to these ward meetings and the community meetings that we have had to talk about zoning. I know we hear about the questions of trust even in those meetings as to whether we're listening, and I will say that we do hear you and we want to hear everyone's voices on that issue. And I also want to say a special thanks to Councilor Kay Cruz. In a number of our meetings, we have heard about folks who have attended those roundtables, and I think find them very useful. So thank you very much for putting those on, as well as yet another place to hear people's voices on that issue. We're still waiting for the city to give us the green light, but we're hoping to have our next meeting on August 23rd at the Green Mountain Rec Center, time to be announced. And we have some thoughts as to what the time is, but I want to wait until we get some confirmation on that issue as well. The other, in terms of Ward 4 issues going on, the William F. Hayden Park, we call it Green Mountain, right? That study is going on as to how to best use that. That's been a conversation that folks have talked about for a number of years as to how we can reimagine those trails and allow better access to that wonderful park. On the issue that I think, as I look around, every one of you who's left is interested in, I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you are here and recognize the vulnerability that you have as opposed to many others who come. I think anybody who is willing to stand up in a public setting and advocate or lament or criticize is opening themselves up in ways that many people don't. And the fact that you are here at a whole nother level is very appreciative. You've heard from some of the other counselors that I think your voices have mattered. It may not seem like it. It may not seem like things aren't moving fast enough or quickly enough. But I think Councilor Cruz has already signaled that there's a proposal that's being worked on, and I thank her and so many others on council who've been instrumental in trying to move that forward. And so I'm hopeful, I'm anxious to see how that proposal rolls out and how we move forward in some way. And so to the extent a proposal does come up, and I am confident that it will, and that something moves forward, I hope that it's something that we can point to directly to the tragedy of Jacques Greton as being perhaps one of those lights or one of those seeds that a number of you talked about. So keep us accountable and keep, I hope you will keep coming and expressing your views and advocating, and hopefully we're able to deliver something that is better than the way things are right now.
There's not a whole lot I can add at this point, but I did want to say I support and really appreciate the hard work that our co-councilors are doing to find a solution to the concerns expressed by the community that has been coming out regularly here to support Jacques Greton. The reason I say that is, and I don't mean to make an analogy, but it essentially, from this side, it's like they have to craft a tool to be able to figure out the solution. It's not a tool that they had readily available. And so it's not it really isn't an easy task. It's literally building a tool to achieve what is being asked for. And I will also acknowledge what some of the other co-councilors have acknowledged, which is there's been a lot of outreach via email, which is being read. And the growth within the people supporting this community is such that I will say there's nowhere I go, whether it's my own office where I work, where there isn't somebody who is frankly asking about this and concerned about it. So it is, trust me, if you saw my office, you would be surprised. It is everywhere right now, the level of concern and commitment to this cause. So again, there's not much else I can add, but I thought it was worth noting that the work that the councilors who are putting this together is not minor. So I appreciate it.
Ward 5.
Sorry, switching back to my notes here. I just want to thank all of you for coming here and expressing yourselves as you have for several meetings now, and hopefully some of the efforts underway will try to give you some peace and some understanding and kind of balance some of the pain that you're feeling. There's just so many social justice issues in the world today, and it's overwhelming to try to cope with them, especially in today's political climate. And having served in the military, I'm particularly outraged that they are now summarily discharging transgender military personnel. Many of them have served more than 15 years, and they're being discharged without benefits. It is just mind-boggling to me. But the only way I can try to cope with it, or deal with it, is just to take one moment at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and just stay present in the moment and try to be happy as much as possible. And just, I encourage you to just keep lifting each other up and joining together. Try not to focus on the negative, and change will come. It's slow, it's elusive. But your persistence does matter. So, thank you for being here again. Having said all that, ward meeting is coming up on 8/23 at Westwood's Church. We will have a presentation by Porchlight, as well as Girl Scout Troop 6560, or 65560. They have been working on their Silver Award project, which is focused on supporting local food banks and helping those with food instability. And I'm just really impressed with this group of young ladies. I never made it past brownies because I couldn't sit still long enough, but these people are really, these girls are really impressive. Tomorrow night is the Westgate Improvement Association Summer Picnic, which will be at the Stonehouse, starting at 6 p.m. for those of you interested. And the ever-active Southern Gables community, they're having their night out on August 22nd from 5 to 7:30 at Green Gables Elementary. And then they are also having a Southern Gables Solar Night at Westwood Church on 8/26 at 6 p.m. And they're going to have some really interesting information there on renewable energy. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Well, it's always hard to go last in a certain way. I agree with everything everybody said. I appreciate everybody's comments. I think I'll jump into zoning first, but I want to thank Kay Cruz for all the roundtables. Appreciate it. I found the one I was able to attend so far very interesting. I know we had some discussions about zoning at our last board meeting that I thought were helpful, and I know we'll have a lot more of those discussions at the next one on August 23rd. Obviously, zoning impacts everyone, and I know it can be a sensitive issue. So I think it's just important to get it right. So I think having these discussions is good and helpful, and I appreciate everybody who's engaging on them. Excuse me. But I also want to thank all of you who are here, friends and family of Jack's. I agree with what my co-counselors have said. Few things happen on this council and in government, I guess, but without pressure. And so I encourage you to continue as long as you can stand it, come into these Monday meetings, because it does help grease the wheel and helps us all get our marching orders and get things done. So I appreciate you all being here. I was debating if I should say this, but I guess I will. I don't know what it's like to be trans, but I just can say that I have some life experience that informs my thoughts a little bit about this tragedy. When I was 16, my father was murdered, and I know what it's like to experience loss. I know what it's like to want answers and to be frustrated with the system. I can also say, in a past life, I worked as a civilian at the Denver Police Department for nearly a decade. And in that role, I read a ton of tragedies and tragic stories about just what kind of evil really is out in the community. And I'm sensitive and aware of all the different tragedies that occur. And so when I, hear all you speak, I'm reflecting about the stories I've read. I have so many bad, tough stories. Calls in the middle of the night where I answered 3 a.m. and somebody was looking for a family member, and I actually was able to find some information about it, but I couldn't share it. And but I could share, hey, you might want to call this person. I think they might be able to tell you more information. And so those stick with me. And when I hear you all speak, that's what I'm thinking about. So just thought I'd share that, and I think I'll end it there. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Council. I want to start with a huge thank you to all of our Lakewood neighbors that hosted National Night Out parties last week. I know many of us attended. I will say I was not able to, sadly, attend National Night Out last week. So I was not one this year, but I will be back next year and ready. My record is 7 parties in one night, and I am determined to make 8 next year. So we will do that. For those neighbors that did the work, I understand it is hard to get people to show up on your driveway, to get people to engage and really create these opportunities to connect with other neighbors. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your lives and often no money out of your pocketbooks to facilitate these conversations with your neighbors. They really do go far. So thank you to all of you that hosted those parties. And we do have, I know this is, Councilor Nystrom mentioned Southern Gables, one of our neighborhoods down in Ward 5 has one coming up next Friday, next Friday, right? The season's not over. It's still very nice outside to do garage parties, driveway parties, whatnot. So anybody that has not done it yet, I would definitely still encourage you to get out, get up and down your street, around your cul-de-sac, invite some neighbors, and really develop some community. This also goes a very long way to helping us be involved and prevented of crime. So do that, and thank you for those who did. I want to put on everyone's radar, for those, inclusionary zoning is a conversation or a topic that I've heard come up for several years now. And I know that a lot of people that are watching this movie, it's not a movie, city council meeting, are interested in that topic but may not be actively watching our agenda. So I wanted to bring that up to let everyone know that that will be the topic of next week's study session, is inclusionary zoning. It is separate from the zoning code, but it is very important as it is council's conversation of deciding of future development, how much do we want of it actually like dedicated to affordable housing. So if that's the topic of interest to you, tune in next week at 7 p.m. Also, for those that have followed the recently brought up possibility of the YIGB topic, which is Yes in God's Backyard. It's a way that the faith-based communities may be able to also participate in increasing affordable housing across our community. That's also on the docket for next week. So stay tuned if either of those topics are important to you. One event I will mention is now the second year in a row, we will be the home for the Ukrainian Festival, the Denver Metro Area Ukrainian Festival, and I would encourage people to check it out. It's Saturday, August 23rd. It's a really great opportunity to go out and see the culture, taste the food, hear the music. I went last year, and it was incredible to be able to learn more about this country that we're hearing so much about. So would encourage you all. It'll be at the Heritage Park, the Heritage Center, Belmar Park, on Saturday, August 23rd. It goes from 1 to 9 p.m. So there's that. And in closing, I will say that everyone deserves to feel safe, secure when we call our police department, when we work with our police department. You all have showed up and made it very clear that that is not the case with everyone right now. I will say I have been the victim of more crimes than I would like to commit publicly. I've been through the process all the way through the court system, and I know that it is not in and of itself built for a victim. It's very challenging to get through emotionally. You are reliving a lot of that over and over again. Some of these we'll never be able to solve, but we know we can do better. So I do hope that you all showing up tonight feel like you've been heard after you've heard, all of our counselor comments this evening, and the mention of the up-and-coming conversation as Lakewood looks at the opportunity to do better for your community and for others, to make sure that we know, you guys know here firsthand, that our community is safer when people feel comfortable picking up the phone. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to improve that outcome for our residents and our guests and our business and everybody involved. So thank you again for everyone for showing up this evening, for making your voices heard. We are not there yet, but we hear you, and we are enthusiastically looking forward to making things better. So with that being said, no more business this evening. I will go ahead and adjourn us at 10:07 p.m.